right? Like, he's just not who he's not. Okay, my friend Nathan has an expression. He says, "Be who you're meant to be," and he says that whenever he has a an issue and he's looking at his own behavior, he says, "Am I being who I'm meant to be?" And if the answer is no, then he'll stop. And that's the thing, is that you've got to be the person who you're meant to be. You've got to be acting through your own intentions. So that doesn't mean to be inconsiderate, because I think someone that acts inconsiderate in a negative way or in a win-lose way is being a dick. But the point is, you've got to be acting through your own intentions. That's where the social conditioning comes in. People might say, why do we need to focus so much on social conditioning? Why do we need to identify social conditioning? Why? And you see a girl, right? You see that girl, just a cute girl, completely harmless. It's a no-lose situation by going and talking to her. But at the same time, there's something that's holding you back. Maybe you need more money. Maybe you need to look better. Maybe if you look like that cool guy from TV, you could do it. But there's something that's holding you back. And a lot of that is that social programming that has gone on for the first several decades of your life. Look, people think accumulating more trendy stuff is the fastest, easiest, most effective way of filling the hole in their self-esteem. What is the best kind of consumer? Best consumers. Dissatisfied. Mild paranoia about his status. Like a mild sort of general buzz of confusion about who he is. No identity. And no values. Like, he does not know what he wants in life. He just wants what other people want. On an even deeper level, if we want to go even deeper, television and professional sports. It's funny how growing up, I was such a fan of hockey and various other professional sports. And when I started to come into my own with this stuff, I just naturally found that I was no longer as interested in pro sports. I just kind of lost interest. I wasn't like rejecting. I wasn't like, fuck pro sports, but I lost interest. Now, after sort of never watching any pro sports for a long time, I've changed a bit, where now I really enjoy pro sports again, but I'm watching it for the athleticism and for the incredible level of skill that these guys are bringing, and I'm a fan of that, but I'm not like cheering for laundry, as Jerry Seinfeld would call it, all right? I'm not so much like that anymore. Why? Because I identify with myself. I don't identify with the group as much anymore, all right? But what we have here is called spectatorism, all right? We're a spectator culture. Spectator culture basically means that we're constantly looking for other people to have the glory. We're looking at movies for the glory. We watch TV, right? We're a TV watching nation. What's the average statistics on television watching?
6 hours.
6 hours a day? God. How much advertising are you getting exposed to? Most people. And not only is that, let's say it was even 4 hours a day, just to take it easy, or even 3. That is a lot of time being a spectator when the other, 7, 8 hours are spent working. And so essentially, we're a spectator nation. We look at other people. We don't want the glory anymore, right? People would rather watch TV and look about the natural environment than go into the natural environment, which is another reason why we're also destroying the environment, right? Because people, they pollute because they don't understand that the natural environment is real. They've never even seen it. They don't care about the third world because they've never even seen it, okay? I made a specific point of living in South America for 3 months this year just because I hadn't seen these things. I want to see they're real. I spend a lot of time in nature now. I'm out in nature all the time, just hiking around, and especially in Hawaii. So the point is like, we're like this spectator nation, okay? It's just watching and watching and watching. Do you guys remember that one was it with John Kerry where that guy got tasered? Do you guys remember that? The student got tasered in a free speech discussion, and the security comes up and tasers him. He's like, "Don't tase me, dude." And he just gets tased, and everyone just goes, "Oh." And you know what they do? They go put it on YouTube. That's like the student form of protest, right? Like, we're not going to have a rally. We'll just tape it and put it on YouTube and blog about how nasty it was. That's the culture, all right? People stand by and they watch shit. They're not taking, they don't live their own lives. So see, when you see that like movie-style lifestyle, like the glorious life, like traveling, dating beautiful women, eating the food you want to eat, meeting the people that you want to meet, having the adventures that you want to have. It's so easy to stand there as a spectator and watch other people do it than to do it yourself. It's simpler. It's easier. They don't want the glory. It's safe. Yeah. I say, fuck that. Okay? The glory is to be had. That's what I say. The glory is to be had. This is your life. Turn the TV off. Turn off the web surfing. Okay? Turn that shit off. It's garbage. You can watch it a little bit. If you have a specific show that you just love and you look forward to it, watch it. Great. But the point is, don't waste time or channel surf. Stop looking at other people. You want to know something even more bizarre? On the boot camps, I'd say maybe it's only a small percentage, but there's a certain percentage of people that come on boot camps, not even because they want to learn how to pick up girls, but because they actually just want to see the stuff that they read about as spectators. Okay? We call them super fans. All right? And a super fan is like a guy who's like, I read your stuff and it's amazing and I'm so looking forward to the boot camp so I can see it. And then they see it and I'll show it and they're like, wow. And it's like, do you want to, no, I just want to watch you, And they just want to see it, right? Like they want to see, especially with the publicity, the increased publicity, it's even more like that, where they just want to see it. People read my blog, right? And they'll be reading my blog and they're reading it, but they have no interest in taking action. A huge percentage of them. It's like they're reading about some guy, oh, he's in South America now. It's like a book, right? Ooh, Tyler travels South America, chapter 12, ooh, Tyler pulls the hot chick, chapter 10, it's not them. It's like they can just read about it. It seems glorious. They don't want it. They don't want to take a piece of it for themselves.
They don't believe it.
It's just it's so outside their reality that they can't see that, You know what I believe in? I believe in a life of your own design. Okay? I believe in that. That's one of the reasons why I moved to Hawaii. That's one of the reasons why I moved to South America. That's why I traveled. That's why I said I want to date the most beautiful and attractive women in the world. That's why I said I want to do work that I believe in, that I love. That's why, everything that I've done has been, at least most of it, has been of my own design. And that's what I want to see for you guys, is not, and let me tell you something too. Even this job that I do with RSD, Real Social Dynamics, it's really great that everyone in this room is here to support me and to support the organization. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate that. But you want to know something? Most people don't like this pickup stuff too much, do they? No. Right? They think, and I don't think that I'm going to get the most gleaning reputation. Not only that, but this community is filled with a lot of commercial bickering and stuff like that, and I've had a little taste of that. Okay? So the thing is when I did RSD, I did hit a point, and I want to say this because I want you to look at your own lives. I hit a point where I said, I'm going to continue with this, or I'm going to stop, and I'm going to pack it up, and I'm going to go home. Why? Because I could get a job doing anything else. There's so many other jobs that I could get. Why did I stick with RSD? Because I asked myself, I said, do I love what I do? I said, yes. I said, if I were to quit, would it be because I don't want other people to look down on me, or would it be because I really want to quit? I said, it's because I would care what other people would think. So I said, well, I'm going to be this weird, freaky, bizarre, wildest celebrity that people think is weird, and I'm okay with that. Because I love what I do, and I made that choice. So don't ever doubt that even though I might sit up here saying, live a life of your own intentions, that I'm not doing the same thing. Because I'm always trying to lead by example. So the thing is, don't worry what other people think. Don't worry. Look, life is so short, okay? You remember when you're a kid, you think you're going to live to be 100 years old? Remember that? Then maybe later you find out you might only live till 70, right? Or even 50 or 60. How fast has your life gone by? Who here has hit 25 years old? Okay? How fast the last 25 years ago? Gone, right? Your life? Gone. Your life will blow by. Okay? So do what you want. Do what you want. Because this is all there is. This is it, man. Do what you want to do, all right? Fuck social conditioning and fuck what anybody thinks of you. As long as you know that what you're doing is good, and you're offering value, not trying to take value from people, do what you want. Look, when you see a girl that you like, what's happening? Your mind is processing your value to her. Think about it, guys. See the girl that you like. Do I have enough value? Yes or no? Your mind is processing this. Is she out of your league? Do you live up to her standards? Are you good enough? Those kinds of things. Your mind is processing it. If you're going by other people's standards, as in you're looking for other people to dictate your identity, and you're looking for other people to tell you what you value out of life, you will always come up short. That's the bottom line. Even if you do live up to other people's standards, guess what? Even if you live up to other people's standards, you're still a dumb chode that tries and spends his day living up to other people's standards. Isn't that true? Even if you did it, even if you're successful, you still are coming from a foundational level where the way that you spend your days is reacting to other people's standards rather than dictating your own standards and pulling other people into your standards. But most of us don't know that we're allowed to do that. Most of us have not been trained or educated that we could do that. Most of us would never know that, hey, say that you're a science geek. Guess what? Maybe hot chicks would like that if you actually believed in it. You know, right? Maybe you are a dork, but you own your dorkiness, and you believe in it, and girls would like that. Maybe girls actually would prefer it that you stop trying to live up to other people's standards and that you just owned who you are. But most people don't realize that. And that's the thing. See, look, when you have your own sense of values, right? And I've talked about this before, and I'll cover it extremely briefly here. Say that some of my values are things like self-actualization, offering value to people, travel, education, and things like that, okay? And I see a beautiful, attractive girl. I see her, and I'm thinking about approaching her. Do I know that she has any of these qualities? Well, hey, I value beauty, and that's fine. So maybe she has one of my values. She has beauty. So she has one. And it's a great point to start. But it's not everything. Which means what? What does that mean? And remember, I'm coming from a place of abundance. I'm walking up to the girl, and as I'm speaking with her, am I trying to live up to her standards? No, she's trying to live up to my standards. Because that's coming across in the subcommunication. When a woman is chasing to live up to the guy's standards, okay, when she's chasing to live up to your standards, she's going to be far more attracted to you than when she can sense that you're trying to live up to her standards. Whenever you're meeting a woman, there's always a subtle vibe going on, who's reacting to who more. And so the more firm you are in your own sense of identity of who you are, and the stronger that you are in what you value, the more that you are going to be the one who's the more attractive individual in the interaction. All right? And then she's going to want your validation. Look, do an experiment, okay? I did experiments with this back in the day. A long time ago, I used to always try to think of the perfect thing that women would like to talk about, so I did an experiment. I said, what did I do today? I said, I did my taxes, all right? I was working on my taxes, and I read another book by Chuck Palahniuk by coincidence. So I said, tonight I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk about that and make it interesting. This was an experiment that I did when I was trying to become a natural. So I went out and I did the ultimate faux pas. I talked about taxes shit, okay? Right? The ultimate thing that you should never, ever talk about. And guess what? It worked. It was totally fine. The night went great. Why? Because what happens is, look, say that you're talking about some book that you read. Say you read some nerdy book, but you're the cool guy in the interaction. You're the cool one. She's suddenly, whereas before you're trying to think of all the stuff that she wants to talk about, she sees that you're firm in that, and if you're a funny guy and you vibe well, she's going to be trying to keep up with that stuff. So she's like, oh, I read a book once. Do you like Harry Potter? You know, right? You know what I'm saying, right? And so the thing is, now she's trying to talk to you. But what most guys are doing is their whole core thought process is wrong right from the get-go, because they're trying to react to her standards now, and they're trying to get her to dictate their identity to them. So not only are most guys walking up going, please tell me who I am. Tell me I'm cool by giving me indicators of interest so I can go into state. But not only that, they're also trying to live up to her values, trying to say the things that she's going to want to hear. And the woman is just not going to be attracted to that. Sometimes she might be. You might get away with it. But for the most part, it's not attractive. Instead, look, think back to high school. Has anyone here ever had an experience in high school where you're talking to one of the popular kids, and the popular kid starts talking about something that you're not even interested in. Maybe he's talking about some kind of rock group you're not interested in, and for some reason you find yourself trying to say whatever random facts that you know about that rock group, just trying to keep up with the conversation. Sure. Has anyone here ever done that? Yeah. So look, I remember, I never smoked weed growing up, okay? Never done it. And one of the reasons why is because all my friends do it, but I just found a lot of my friends got burnt out, so I didn't want to do it. Anyway, I remember the popular kids would talk to me about smoking weed, and I'd be like, oh, cool. What kind of weed was it? A indica or a sativa weed? Shit like that. And pretending as if I smoke weed. You know what I'm saying? When I don't. And hey, if you want to smoke weed, but don't do it because someone told you to. And the thing is like, I remember thinking, God, I'm such a bitch to be just like, right? Like even at 15 or 16, I knew this. Like, why am I pretending this, right? Where's my integrity here, I probably didn't verbalize it like that at 15, but that's essentially what the seed of a thought. And so, essentially, that's what most people are doing in conversations. The one who has the quote-unquote higher value, the other person is trying to live up to their values. And they're looking to have that person dictate to them their identity. And this is what social conditioning creates. Spectatorism, looking towards other people for self-esteem, looking at the surface of things, never the depth. We'll go into what that means later. The point is, this is the effect that social conditioning is having, all right? And this is what you need to shake yourself out of. You need to be shook and loose. Look at it this way. When there's a vacuum that exists, if you don't know that you're supposed to have your own values, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know who you are, if you don't have a clear concept of who you are, there's a vacuum. The vacuum exists, and you're going to be continually sucking value from people, trying to find out who you are and what you should think. Living in reaction. So there's an expression here. We call it living in reaction, okay? And what living in reaction means, I'll give you the basic rundown. Here's some examples of living in reaction. Not knowing, lacking a crystal clear concept of 1, who you are, 2, what you value, 3, what you're grateful and appreciative for, 4, how your emotions work, 5, what you really want out of life, and 6, why certain influences are positive or corrupting. Most people in society, when we talk chodes, if you want to get into okay, so Jeffy gave the really glorious version of what a chode is. Well, here I'm giving you almost, an expanded version, a more scientific version. Chodes. What's that?
Inner chode.
Yeah, your inner chode. Chodes, most of the time, chodely characteristics. Don't know who they are. Don't know what they value. They don't know what they're appreciative for, so they're dissatisfied. They don't know how their emotions work. They don't know they have no vision out of life, and they don't know why certain influences are corrupting them and which ones are positive. Okay? That's what living in reaction is. And as a result, their mind is blowing around like a reeds in the wind. They are just scattered. They're missing that center. It's well suited for a peon, not for you. The bottom line is a couple things. Number one, if this is kind of nerd talk here, but look, if your sub-communication is really what's attracting women, if that's what really matters, then you've got to ask yourself, what is the best way for me to be living my life? How are the decisions that I'm making affecting my sub-communication? In other words, say that you go out and get elective plastic surgery. Say that you go out and get, you're going out, purchasing things to try to impress people, stuff like that. Even though you might be on the surface level helping yourself, on the deeper level, you're establishing a pattern where you're constantly living up to other people's standards. In other words, you're establishing a pattern where you are living in reaction. And that pattern that you're establishing through those behaviors that seem innocent are basically screwing you up. They're messing you up. So whenever you're making a decision about how you're living your life, think to yourself, look, is this making me more confident? Is it connecting me to my self-esteem? Or is this really just distancing me from who I'm meant to be? And if it's distancing you from who you're meant to be, from who you're meant to be, don't do it. All right? Don't compromise your values. Don't compromise yourself. When you do that, you become more centered, more attracted to women, and glory ensues. How about the magic pill, guys? Social conditioning, in terms of this stuff here, most guys come in looking for a magic pill. And what that means is this. Human beings are always looking for shortcuts. That's our nature. We want the shortcut. We want the fastest, easiest, most effective way of getting things done. We don't want to have to put in time. We don't like slow, gradual progress. That stuff is not appealing. What we really want is to be enhanced as quickly as possible. Ego enhancement. In advertising, you see all this kind of things. Look, generally speaking, you know how most people, when you study advertising, most people's general self-image is I'm a little fucking troll. I'm like that little shit from Lord of the Rings. What's his name? Gollum, right? A lot of people's self-image, because they live in the society, is like a little Gollum, and they want the ring, right? They want to be enhanced, okay? The precious, right? They want the precious, you know? And so that's why you'll see like marketing headlines like sneak away with these tactics, right? Like you're sneaking away with them, right? To get the edge, right? All those bigger people, but you're going to sneak away with these new tactics that you learn. Or you'll see, and they want enhancement, right? People want to fuck over their neighbor. They want to be better than the next man, right? They want to be enhanced. They want to stand out, okay? And so, again, the media, the demand will always be met by the supply. If people in general have those kinds of mindsets because of the way society's going, the supply will come in to meet the demand. So generally speaking, when it comes to pickup, again, the market just comes, the demand comes in, or the supply comes in to meet the demand. Most people, first of all, don't recognize where there's a problem. Let me tell you something. Unless you're capable of walking up to any woman with complete confidence and being outgoing, without even thinking about it, there's work to be done. That's a fact. Unless you're at a level where you're able to be outgoing and walk up to a woman and really offer value and be expressive and be unstifled and be your quote-unquote be yourself and shoot the shit and have a good time, if you're not capable of doing that, there's work to be done. But you see, most people don't want to think about that because you know why? It's harder to think about, isn't it? It's harder to look at the deeper issues. It's hard to face the complexities of what that would entail to really do that. So what do most people want? They want the tactics immediately. That's human nature. First, we look for tactics. We get initial quick fix. Later, when we realize it didn't get us the result we want, we then look for the principles. The Blueprint program is a book of principles. It's a program about principles. You come in, you need the magic pill. Look, the Blueprint, the average person, if this is the first program they ever watch, they can't deal with it because they're like, just give me something to say, okay? So then you go, okay, fine, here's what to say. Go say it. So they go say it, they go, okay, well, what's next now? Okay, well, say this. Oh, what's next now? Okay, say this. Okay, well, I ran out of stuff to say. What do I say now? It's like, dude, you know what? Even if you had everything to say, she's still not going to sleep with you, even if she was giggling and laughing. So that's why we, dilate our perception and we look at principles. Okay? But see, when we think about the magic pill, and here's a concept about human nature that you must understand. Anytime that you're not using something, it weakens. So in other words, if you don't use your muscles, they shrink. If you don't use your brain, it turns into a useless prune. You guys remember coming back from summer vacation, you try to write on the piece of paper and you can't remember how to do it anymore? Ask you to do a bit of math. Any of you guys play sports, you take the off season, you come back, you've lost your ability to play at the level that you left at. Did you know that even if you go into outer space, that when you come back from space, this is one of the challenges with long-term space travel, when you come back from outer space, your bones have lost density. Think about that. One of the biggest challenges with sending somebody across the galaxy is not even, let alone the challenge of sending someone across the galaxy, is that their bones, because there's no gravity, will just completely lose density. So then when they get out, I don't even know what that would look like. They just right? That's what would happen. So if you really think about that, people generally, though, want to use as least energy as possible. Why have we evolved to want to use the least amount of energy as possible? Why?
Conserve energy.
Must conserve energy. Any species that does not conserve energy, generally speaking, is more likely to get weeded out. So we as a species want to conserve energy. This is why we get lazy. If we don't see the immediate motivation to do something, we don't want to do it. And that is why magic pills seem appealing. And to the average person, the average guy, real social dynamics, I think, definitely attracts a much higher quality. When I look in this room, I see, fucking cool, regular, chill guys. If this was, 5-6 years ago, I saw a lot of very, very hard-case, self-hating people. And because in many ways, when we were teaching a more tactic-based approach, the type of people that we were attracting were the Dungeons & Dragons nerd. He wants to sit in his house playing World of Warcraft, sort of emerge from the shadows for a little bit, snatch up the girl with his tactics, bring her back to his cave lair, and then just keep playing World of Warcraft, right? Being an orc king or something. So, okay, so basically, isn't that interesting that, we have that kind of inclination to like, we don't want to fix the larger problem. We don't want to face the complexities. It's like, look, just give me some shit. I can get a girlfriend. I can move on. And you know what? If that's what you want, try it. See how well it works. I'll see you back in a few months. But try it. Now, the thing is, people want that magic pill, but what is the magic pill? I mean, when you're learning tactics upon tactics, essentially what you're doing is it's like, think like a flabby belly, and then taking out a magic marker and going, six-pack, right? Think of it like the thin veneer of game, like you can just paint on the thin veneer, right? And so essentially what happens is you become a more potent and robotic version of the same self that previously could not attract women. The same women-repellent self, but a more tactical version. And you see cases of this all throughout the community. Guys who are quote-unquote addicted to frame control, guys who very miscalibrated and stuff like that. And they're thinking, where's that next magic pill? Where's the next magic pill, the next easy, quick shortcut? But the truth is, while there are a lot of shortcuts, at the end of the day, what we really need is a deep identity level change. Isn't that true, right? Like, the magic pill doesn't exist, guys. It really doesn't. And, on a certain level, with the magic pills, yes, you can get an interaction going. Yes, you can get some laughter. Maybe you could even get as far as a makeout. But to get to the level where you have, sexual abundance, that's where the deep identity level change comes in. And that's what I really want for you guys. That's what this program is about.
Mm-hmm. It kind of reminded me of something. One day I've been working on a book, and one day I was having a really bad writer's block, and I thought I'm going to go out and just meet women, just to get away from it. And I had just an unbelievable evening, because I was going to women, I was asking them, can you write? I was just really focusing on what I wanted to do, and the women were just like all over. And, and it's funny because because you're talking and putting things together, because I wasn't even interested in meeting them. I mean, it was just like all over me. It was like, because I was just, I want to talk about the book and what's going on in my thought process. And because
Good.
I'm just so totally focused on that.
And you're on your path.
Yeah. That, I mean, it's like looking back, it's like, dude, I could have pulled her or something.
Maybe.
At the same time, maybe, I'll never know.
Yeah.
At the same time, I remember one time I went to this place, and they're like half a dozen really beautiful on this table, and all the guys were afraid of approaching, but I just want to talk about the book, and I want to get their ideas. And so I was going over there, and they were telling me all kinds of things about their life, and it was a great conversation. And I just wasn't even thinking about picking them up, and I left them.
Yes, good. Well, we got to learn how to close, okay?
Yeah, that's what.
Check out Ozzy for that. Close! Okay? All right? So look, here's what it comes down to, and this is to wrap up the social conditioning section, then we're going to do a 5-minute break. Ultimately, what you have to understand is this. The magic pill is not what you're looking for here. It's deep identity level change. A man who's attracted to women, the self is always coming through with him. Who you are is always broadcasting out. Always. Without effort, without trying, it just happens. And that's the last sort of principle that we're going to start. Because remember how I came up with the first 3 principles? Being attracted to women is something that you are, not something you do. Being, not doing, and deep identity level change. Well, this is the last introductory principle that I'm going to put to you guys. And this is the major theme of this program as well. The self is always coming through. All right? The self is always coming through. And that is what you guys, when we do this break, I want you to really think about that. That the self is always coming through. What it means is this. If you're a cool guy, you can say the dumbest type of stuff, and you'll get away with it. If you're still working on that inner self, you can say the coolest things in the world, and it doesn't hit. An example would be like, even the body language, something that we would consider to be like a really pure form of attraction. And guys will say to me, is body language important? I say, sure it is. And they say, really? It's really important, right? I say, yeah, but you know what? The self is always coming through. They say, what do you mean? I'll approach a girl like this. I'll put my hands in my pockets, which is considered to be bad. I'll put my things up like this, and I'll go, hi there. Who are you? Who are you? Okay, right? And guess what? Even though this is bad body language, all right? Think about this, guys. Think about it.
But your vibe's neutral.
It's still neutral. It doesn't matter. Think about that. I can go up and say, hey, I like salad.
Good for you.
I like Caesar salad.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But I don't like croutons.
All right.
Do you see my dilemma here?
Yeah.
Okay? That's an opener. Do you want to know another great opener? I do it all the time. It goes like this.
Hi. It's not long ago.
That's the opener.
Wow.
Simple. So simple. You want to know another opener? Hi.
Hi.
Want to know another opener? Hey, who are you? Okay. Another good opener. All right. You want to know an awesome opener? Okay? Simple. All right? Those are openers that I use, not necessarily as my best openers, but to show a point. What am I showing?
That you can open with anything, you're non-threatening, your vibe is good.
The self is always coming true.
The self is always coming through.
So basically, you're not dependent on response.
Nah, man. The self is always coming through. If a cool guy does that, he'll get a great response. A guy who is doing it like, the guy who watches the Blueprint DVD set, and he's like, a stare opener, that's a new magic pill, right? So he's like, ooh. Right? And then there goes, like that, right? Okay? You know? Didn't work, man. I knew this shit don't work. All right? So that, you know, and that's the thing, is that in a lot of ways, since we've done this, we've almost had to come up with like two classifications of openers, like openers that work for cool dudes and openers that like newbies have to use, you know, because the truth is, like, it's, you know, the self is always coming through. All right? The self is always coming through. And isn't that liberating? Right? Isn't that a liberating thing? Because you realize that you don't need to keep doing stuff all the time just to attract a girl. And then that brings us back, before we take our break here, to this very first diagram right here, which is that you're not down here. But if you think you are, then of course you're going to have to get fancy, take hold of her attention. But when you know you're there, the self is coming through, all right, and through the subcommunication. And it's a beautiful thing. And this is where you can become a natural. And this is where, almost going back full circle to where I started my story today, about how I was so paranoid about, like, you know, the media spotlight on this stuff and it wasn't going to work anymore and all that kind of stuff. No, of course not. I love the media spotlight. I think it's great. I watch this stuff. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the people involved in it. I'm a fan of all of it. I love it. I'm not like, oh, no, it's not going to work anymore. How could this stuff stop working? What? Cool people are now off the map for girls? If he seems cool, watch out. Okay? It can't happen. Can't happen.
Either it works or it doesn't.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. So look, but here's what else is beautiful is that, and we're going to learn this. We're going to spend 4 days learning this. In being put in a position where I had to let go of the crutches, which was, you know, at the time was very unsettling, it forced me to do something that really deeply benefited me as a whole. And so what I want to encourage you guys to do in this program, okay, as we're wrapping up this introduction here, is I want you guys to take this stuff and use it not only to be phenomenally successful with women, I'm talking ridiculous, but also you're going to use it to become better in every aspect of your life. and to make your experience of your life much higher quality. The next thing that we're going to talk about is value and how that leads to rationalization. I want you guys to understand this. Once you understand it, I'm going to warn you, once you guys understand a lot of the stuff we're going to be going over, at first it's going to freak you out because you're going to go back into life and you're going to see it happening all around you and you're going to feel like the kid from Sixth Sense that sees dead people. Okay? That's how it feels. Really, it does. It can feel very isolating because you're going to understand a lot of things and you're going to see it happening in front of you and you're going to start to doubt your own motivations and doubt other people's motivations. But don't worry, there's an uplifting message to all of this, so don't panic. All right. Yes. All right. Value. Okay. To understand value, you have to understand rationalization. Everybody has a concept of who they think they are, what kind of person they think they are. So, for example, like I said, everyone's on the side of God, everyone's a good guy. Most people view themselves as having integrity, honesty, depth. They're not shallow, they're not superficial. One of my favorite things to do in LA, to be honest, actually, when I'm talking to girls that I know are very superficial, is start talking to them about how bad superficiality is. And they're like, oh, God, I know. Let me tell you, I can't stand those superficial girls. Okay? It's extremely hilarious. But anyway, me and my buddy Scotty used to do that a lot. But look, understand we all have that concept of, the types of values that we want to have. At the same time, simultaneously, sometimes the things that we value in ourselves, there's a tension that's created there because why? Because sometimes acting selfishly and against the types of values that we like to perceive in ourselves is what would benefit us selfishly. All right? Sometimes to fuck over the next man is in your benefit. Sometimes to ditch your uncool friends to hang out with the popular kid is in your benefit. All right? I'm not saying I agree with it. In fact, the more I've learned about this stuff, the more I act within alignment with my values, and the more I'm completely turned off by that kind of behavior. In fact, to be honest, in the last 2 years, I very rarely hang out with the popular people. I try to hang out with people that, by my own estimation, are good, solid people. I really could give less of a flying you-know-what about popularity. If someone happens to be popular, great. If not, makes no difference to me. So look, value and rationalization. On one level, you have the person who you think that you are. On another level, you have your biological drives. Your biological drives are always telling you, do what will be good for what? What is value? Survival, reproduction, right? What feels good? That's what your emotions are telling you to do. This creates a tension. How does your mind resolve the tension then? By something called backwards rationalization. All right? Backwards rationalization. It's something that we all do to various extents. The less you do it, the better in a lot of ways. But look, to feel good about your emotionally motivated actions, as in, like we're still in the driver's seat, it's like we chose to do this, we invent logical reasons for them during or after the fact. This is called backwards rationalization. Nobody's totally exempt from it. We all do it to a certain extent. All of us. I don't care who you are. If you think that you don't rationalize, that is nuts. But the point is, some of us are like, on one end of the continuum, hardcore rationalizers. Others of us, not so much, a little bit more in the driver's seat maybe. Although the truth be told, rationalization is so dominant. All right. Now let's think about how you're perceived. How are you perceived? Most guys think, say they think, I'm a nice guy. Hey, I'm a nice guy. So therefore, people will think that I'm nice. Here's the problem with that kind of thinking. Alley-oop. Wow, look at this, man. It just doesn't end. I had no idea I wrote this much. Value comes first. Don't forget that. Value comes first. What does that mean? Look, if you're sitting there and you're talking to a girl and you're a nice guy, if you have quote-unquote low value, she's probably not really going to notice that you're a nice guy. She might go, oh, he's nice. On the other hand, if you have a high value, you could be a big jerk. But maybe if 1% about you is nice, she's going to focus in on that little 1%. She's going to say, he's the nicest guy. He's an incredibly nice guy. All right? This is how value causes rationalization. Okay? If a girl is like, I'm a nice person, I'm a person of integrity, and she meets a guy who has high value, even if he himself does not have those qualities, it's very likely that she will rationalize inadvertently, not knowing that she's doing it, and impose those qualities onto him. This is why a lot of women have the dilemma and suffer sometimes from dating jerk guys, and they can't figure out why they date these rotten, emotionally unhealthy guys. But yet some of those guys, sometimes these jerk guys, have that confidence, and they just take what they want out of life, and women find that irresistible. So as a result, they wind up with guys that they shouldn't be with. Now look, this whole rationalization thing is affecting you on levels that you're not even realizing. Okay? So look, a girl might say, I don't care, I'm not superficial. I don't care about a guy's value. All that I care about is that he can make me laugh. I don't care about a guy's value. All that I care about is that I feel a connection with him. Well, guess what? When you have value, how easy is it to make a girl laugh? Think about this. If you have enough value, you could walk up to a girl, you could go, okay, and she's going to laugh. You could just go, and she's going to be laughing uncontrollably because you have the value. When you have enough value, sense of humor is automatic. You could do anything. You could do the leprechaun dance. Anything. I'm not even kidding. And the girl will laugh at it uncontrollably. So look, that being the case, think of the high school quarterback, right? Think about the high school quarterback. He's talking to the cheerleader. Whatever he says, what happens? She laughs at it, right? Now, how about connection? Do you guys ever remember the popular kid in school and all the different girls thought that they had a connection with that guy? Do you remember how maybe some of your friends thought they had a connection with Jessica Alba or something like that? They think that they have something in common. They see these slight little things that they have in common, and they think, oh, wow, we have a connection. So isn't it funny that guys, they're trying to learn how to be good with women, and they say, I need to work on my sense of humor. I need to work on how to build a connection with a woman, when in fact, if they were just stronger, they would be coming across easily with those kinds of qualities without any of those problems. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work on how to build a connection with a woman. I'm not saying don't worry about your sense of humor. I'm just making a point that value tends to be a prerequisite. You could say your funniest line, the funniest thing in the world, but if you don't have value in that situation, most of the time, people are not going to take it as seriously as if you did have value. Look, the point is, it's the value that makes the girl receptive to having the idea of a connection in the first place. Without the value, it's probably not going to go. Does that mean that value is everything? Is value everything? Of course not. Value's not everything. It's just that it tends to come first, most of the time. All right? Especially with really attractive women. Generally speaking, value tends to come first. It's not that value is everything, okay? A lot of girls don't even want a guy that's that high of a value because they're not necessarily confident enough to be around it. But the point is that a girl is a lot more likely to really look at you under a microscope, like, wow, let's find out about this guy. Let's see what cool qualities he has. Let's find out more about him if you have the value in the first place. You're going to get given a lot more of a chance. The girl's going to take her time to get to know you a lot more and take what you have to say a lot more, to heart when you have the value. All right, now look. Let's think about social relationships, okay? One kind of nerd way of calling that would be social alliances. We just call it social alliances as our nerd speak because it kind of covers the broad range of any type of relationships. Now, look, all people generally tend to be social beings. We like to make friends. We like to build contacts. We like to create bonds. It's cool. It's fun. However, key concept, time and energy are finite. People only have so much time and energy, right? Got it, guys? What do we have a limited time of, or amount of? Time and energy. Good. Because we only have so much time and energy, we're only capable of doing so much. There's only so much that we can do. And because that's the way that we're wired, because that's our nature, we tend to have the behavior pattern where we'll seek out the relationships that benefit us the most. All right? Now again, let's make this clear. This isn't like a set of instructions like, because you only have so much time and energy, I am instructing you to seek the relationships that benefit you the most. I'm not saying that. In fact, as you can kind of see, I have a little bit of contempt for that kind of behavior. I don't judge it, but I don't particularly enjoy it. So look, the point being is that because human beings have this tendency, we need to recognize it. We don't judge it. We don't analyze it. We just say it is what it is. That's the terrain. Do you guys understand that whenever something is the terrain, you don't judge it? Do you guys get that? Like, you're going to die, right? We're all going to die? Is that bad or good? It is what it is, right? It's not bad or good. It's like people have certain tendencies. You can't judge it like, that's wrong, that's bad. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, look, we learn to forgive each other, right? Like, we all do dickhead things, and we somehow learn to forgive each other and find the good in each other. So it just is what it is. Anyway, look, your emotions are designed to guide you. They're designed to guide you towards the relationships that are going to benefit you the most, all right? Look, people hang out for a variety of different reasons. Some motivations would include status, money, sex, or a more pure reason could include knowledge, relating to each other, mutual respect, or just having fun. I've actually really, in the last couple of years, moved most of my relationships away from status-based stuff and more just towards relating to people and having fun. I recommend that you do the same. But regardless, people have different motivations for relationships. Where does the longevity of a relationship come in? I want you guys to think about this. The longevity of a relationship. The longevity of a relationship will always be dictated by the value that people continue to get out of it. Even if you have a friend who you just relate to, if you're going to be investing a lot of time and energy into that person, it's probably because you're getting some kind of value out of it, some kind of enjoyment. People will put up with your bullshit if you become all sorry for yourself or negative and the value that you're offering them gets removed. They'll put up with it for a period of time and they'll support you, but eventually they will move on. We know that. That's why it's important to continually keep your shit together, not be a dumbass. All right, so look, every relationship is up for grabs. The second that someone senses that they'd benefit by directing their time and energy elsewhere, away from an old relationship towards a new one, their mind is wired to start seeking out reasons to do so. Okay? Now, I want you guys to think about it like this. Here's a piece of paper. Let's say that this is your field of perception right here. This is like all of reality within our little green marker box. There's only so much that you can focus on at the same time. There's a word for this. Does anyone know what it is? RAS. Thank you. Repeat after me. Reticular activation system. Good. Say it again. Reticular activation system. Great. Reticular activation system is that system that all human beings have, at least all properly functioning human beings, that essentially filters out that which is of no value to you and zones in on that which does have value. So essentially, like I said, if you have the hot food plate being pushed by, you go, woo, you look at it, right? Think of it this way. Say that we're having this conversation, and what girls you guys like? Give me a girl. Carmen Electra, okay? Let's say that Carmen Electra from 10 years ago pops in the door out there, okay? Well, okay? Let's say Carmen Electra from 10 years ago walks in that back door right now, right? And she's like, hey, guys, is anyone available? All right? What happens to perception? As great as this might be, what happens to your perception?
Somebody's leaving.
Boom, yeah, someone's leaving, right? So basically what's happening there is the value is shifting, right? What happens if Osama bin Laden just pops in? Hey, I'm back. What's up? Okay? That's called a threat, right? Where's your perception go? I might be like, so anyway, the value thing, the value, right? And you guys are like, oh, and you can't remember anything that was said back up here. Nothing could be remembered. You will be focused there. The direction of the focus of your perception has been moved. That is the way that reticular activation system works. Remember that. Reticular activation system is a huge part of attraction, and the very best guys with girls, like the guys who are really, really stellar with girls, can see reticular activation system like they can see the matrix of it. They can see where all the RAS is in the room all the time. They're always, conscious of it, and they can do all these little, they can play all these little glitches in the matrix because they see what's happening, okay? So look, what do you focus on? Like what? We think about it this way. If this is your whole field of perception, whenever there's value or a threat, Your perception will focus in on that. Well, likewise, the way that you focus in on your existing experience of reality, like the way that reality is unfolding in front of you, you will also, and I don't know if this is RAS or not, or if it's just selective memory, but whatever a scientist would call it, you're also having a very subjective interpretation of past events. All right? So look, say that you have a friend. Say that this is your friend right here, okay? And you have nice memories would count as N, right? A nice memory, a nice memory, a nice memory, a nice memory. But then there's also these bad memories that are here, here, and here, okay? Let's say that the nice memories were like, this person got you a birthday cake, and he remembered he got you a Christmas present, and he's just fun, and he's a nice guy, whatever. And then the bad memories are like he was 5 minutes late at the pizza store, he made fun of you once and you didn't like it, and he snuggled with your teddy bear one night when you're looking for your teddy bear. Whatever, okay? So as random as we can get. So look, at first, the focus is here, right? When there's value in the relationship, the focus is all here. It's like, oh yeah, he did this, he did that. What happens when the relationship begins to deteriorate? When the person is no longer getting the value that they once got out of it, the focus now changes. They go, that guy's always late. That guy is always stealing my fucking teddy bear, right? And he, what was the other bad one? He mocks me. Ugh, right? He mocks me. So the focus begins to change. You can see in your relationships how they're changing. Like even in guys, let's say not even women, but say with a guy. Maybe at first you have some new dude that you hang out with just as friends, and you're like, hey, let's go get a beer. And even if he's already, or say you say, let's go get a bite to eat. Even if he's already eaten, he's like, yeah, I'll just come down, we'll hang out, whatever. Later, if he's not getting as much value out of the friendship, he's like, oh, well, I'm busy now, whatever. Okay, that's just a symptom. By the way, if your friend says he can't go eat with you, don't start panicking like, oh, Tyler said it's not offering enough value. Okay, not saying that. All right, I'm just giving it as an example. So, you see this in business all the time. You see business partnerships that at one point were really, really solid, but then when the other partner can recognize that they can make more money by going off on their own, all of a sudden it goes boom, boom, boom. That guy doesn't do this, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this. Even though there was so much good stuff to focus on, it deteriorates. The same thing happens in relationships. The guys that are the best with women are haunted by this, all right? The guys that are really skilled with women, this is the shit that haunts their dreams at night. Because essentially, when you get really, really good with women, what you start finding is this. Here's a couple things that you'll notice. One is, say that you're talking to a woman and her boyfriend is there, okay? You'll be talking to her. Say that you just start talking like this. Say that her boyfriend's right there. He doesn't like what's going on. So he'll be like, hey, Kathy. What's interesting, he could even follow this. How's this for a mind screw? He can be yelling so loud that you cannot hear yourself talk. Like you cannot even hear your own voice coming out of your mouth because he's being so obnoxious or whatever. The girl can't hear him, and she can only hear the pitch that's coming from your voice. Okay? This is like, you ever see that movie March of the Penguins? When the penguin moms can hear the voice out through all the different pitches? Well, this same phenomenon will occur whenever we're dealing with attracting women. Like, if you have the value, you can be talking to that girl, and she will be completely absorbed in your conversation. Meanwhile, the person's yelling, and she cannot hear that. You can't even hear your own voice, but somehow she can hear it. I mean, these are extreme examples, all right? These are just extreme outside-the-box examples to get you thinking. Likewise, what girls will also tend to do is, if they like you, they'll do stuff like, say she has a boyfriend she really likes. Well, then all of a sudden, even though their relationship was solid, it's like, oh, well, he did this to me, and I'm not really willing to put up with that aspect anymore, and, stuff like that. Immediately, she starts focusing on the negative in her relationship, all right? That is called, it's the subjective interpretation of past events, essentially. And this is happening all the time. It's happening live, and it's happening in people's memories. This is why you guys ever heard the expression, there's two sides to every story? Comes down to rationalization, right? There's two sides to every story. The thing is, the guys that are really good with women in the field, they know this stuff. They know how to get that RAS pulled in their direction. They're good at it. They know how to do it, and this is why they can do these freaky things. It's actually, you guys know how in every underground trade or craft, there's secret tricks to the trade that nobody would ever be able to figure out on their own? What I'm talking about here is one of them. This is like pickup artistry. This is like hardcore underground pickup artistry here. Like when you understand how this works, it's like you can quote unquote see the matrix, and basically you can do things that will like blow people's minds. This is why sometimes you guys see the boot camp reviews where guys are like, my brain just melted. I couldn't believe it's impossible. What he did was impossible. Well, this is because when you can see the RAS unfolding, you know how to pull the energy in your direction. You can do that kind of really advanced stuff. All right. By the way, I'm not advising for you to take someone's girlfriend off them. It's a miserable thing to do. All right, now look. As far as this goes, value. Let's think of how that goes even more in terms of like, you know, when you're sitting there with your friend, right? Think about this, guys. You're sitting there with your friend, you're talking, and a girl goes by. What happens to your attention? Like that. Okay? That's that reticular activation system. Always keep that in mind. Feel yourself doing it. Because guess what? There's more important ways that this causes attraction that you wouldn't even expect. All right. Say that you've got a girl talking to you. Okay? So she's speaking with you. She's trying to get your attention. Tapping. You're talking to your friends. What's the right move? Yeah. What do most guys do? Okay, right? Okay. Right? That's what most guys do. The thing is, that's because their RAS goes like that, right? Then the girl goes, oh, look, I have value. This is all unconscious, by the way. She goes, look, I have value. Okay, cool. All right, so basically she knows that now. She also knows then that probably you are not hooking up with girls of her type of quality. All right, she knows that immediately. Now, when you're just relaxed, say she's tapping, and if you just keep talking to your friends, you go, hold up. You just keep talking to your friend like that, just like you would to any other person that was tapping you, the same way. And by the way, let's make a key distinction here. What most guys do is they try to exaggerate it, right? Like, it's pickup move time. I remember this one from my seminar, okay? All right, you guys heard the expression social robot. So, okay, me being the biggest one in the world. All right, so basically, what most guys do is they're always trying to, don't react, right? Like, I got to be unreactive now. Don't react to it. But what does that come across looking like? If you're trying not to react, to look unreactive, what is that? You're reacting, right? So what you've got to start doing when you want to be real good with women is you want to get in touch with the way that you really are. You got to get in touch with being the person that you're meant to be. Get in touch with the way that you naturally act around all people, all right? If one of your guy friends were to come and poke you, you wouldn't be like, I'm not going to even talk to him, okay? You're not going to do that. You would just go, oh, hey, dude, hold up, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, so what's up, right? You would just be normal, okay? So that's, when you might have heard me saying stuff like be normal, like the key to all pickup, be normal. Well, when you can be normal around phenomenally attractive women, that's always going to get a lot of pull of attraction in your direction, okay? So the thing is, with this whole RAS thing, you can see, like you're pulling, you know how to pull, we'll talk about this later, how to pull the social energy in your direction, but then you also know how to make people fight to get within your field of vision, okay? And basically how girls will play, like the game that they play is trying to get you to react to them, trying to get you to, I guess they're trying to get into your RAS. That's really what's happening. They're trying to get into it, okay? Just keep it in mind, guys. Isn't it amazing, too, as a side note, how, has anyone here ever just started dating a girl who had a boyfriend, and then she actually goes and creates a fake fight with the boyfriend so she can feel good about what she's doing? Anyone here ever had that? Yeah, it's nuts, huh? It is nuts. Crazy jungle out there. All right, so look. Point is, look, people sustain relationships by focusing what they get out of it. When the value changes, what they focus on is subject to change. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. Now, look. What you should and should not take from this. All right. Pause. Okay? Pause. All right? Before we go any further, what you should and should not take from this. A lot of guys hear this stuff, and then they start to see it. All right? And I teach this to you because I want you guys to get total mastery in this area. But what winds up happening is guys start thinking that everyone is rationalizing against them. Right? This guy's a big rationalizer, and that guy's a big rationalizer. It's like when people learn about the ego, and then suddenly they're saying, this guy's got a big ego, and that guy's got a big ego, and this guy's being egotistical and stuff like that, right? It's just ridiculous. Don't start walking through life thinking that people are rationalizing against you. That's called a loser mentality, a victim mentality. You guys ever heard of a self-fulfilling prophecy? Well, if you're thinking that everyone is out to rationalize against you, what's going to happen? You're going to create that, all right? So don't let it happen. Okay? Don't let it happen. Don't start thinking like that. Look, to be really phenomenal in this area, you have to be able to hold paradoxical realities in your mind and not be bothered by the paradox. Okay? Remember that, guys. You have to, on one level, you can know what's going on. Like, you can see, okay, this is going on. But on another level, you shouldn't be, like, focusing on, like, is this guy rationalizing, this girl rationalizing? Well, right, it's like you can recognize it, but at the same time, you just chill and you like assume the best. In fact, generally speaking, you want to assume that all people are really good-natured, people are really friendly, people are really positive, people are your friends, like everyone in the world is your friend, and you wish good things on all people, and then probably they wish all good things on you. But then simultaneously, you also have to be aware of how things can work, right? And these are two paradoxical realities that you hold in your mind that you can shift in and out of as needed. So, the most liberating mindset is this. Accept that the world owes you nothing, and that in the long run you'll get back no more, no less than you deserve. All right? I can't even stress that enough. Just accept that the world owes you nothing. Don't be trying to take value where you don't deserve it. Don't even be trying to feel like, even where you do deserve value, don't even get caught up in it. Like, I'm being nice here, and this person isn't recognizing it. Just don't worry about it, guys, okay? The world's a light place, really. Let it just be a light place. Don't get caught up in this stuff. I just want to let you guys know about it because no master at this could really exist without understanding it. But at the same time, don't focus on it. So let's move on. The magnet. Value is a magnet. Like I said, it's dragging around your perception all the time. How do you know when you have value and you don't have value? Let's think about this. Okay. Let's hop up some gentlemen here. Hop up, guys. Give me 5 people here. You 4, you want to hop up? Hop up for me. Okay? Just come right here. Just hop on up here. Come on up, guys. All right. Thank you so much for indulging me. Okay. So look, let's say that you are the pimp here. Okay? Cool. You're a big pimp. You like that, huh? Okay. And, all right, and let's say that we are the group of girls, okay? All right, now let's think about this, okay? Let's say that we're talking. He's going to come in and he's going to begin conversing with us. Let's say that he has no value, right? He just isn't communicating value. Well, here, come in and say hi, and how would we react based on what we just talked about? Go ahead.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah. Okay. You see that? It's like the crane of the neck. Boom. Now, how about, what if he has value? Let's do the same little thing again, just to hammer this point home. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, hey.
Oh. Yeah, I was just looking at you, and I just want to tell you, you're fucking gorgeous, man.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Then now they get all catty and they go, all right. All right. Okay. So you guys see the difference here? Okay. So that what's going on is, on one level, you see like kind of just like the craning of the neck, back to the group, right? Close-ended answers, right? How's it go? Like, oh, you think I'm beautiful? Oh, thanks. Right? How's your night going? Oh, good. Boom. When you have value, it's all, oh. Whoosh. Turns like this, smiles, maybe some touching. Open-ended answers, like, like she's allowing the conversation to pursue. You guys understand that? Yeah. Okay? Give these guys a clap for coming up here. Thank you, guys. Okay. Up, down. Okay. So, look, that's how you know if you have value or not. Is your magnet strong? Is your magnet weak? All right? When you have a lot of value, people will listen to what you have to say and they'll try to impress you in conversation. When you don't have value, no go. Likewise, when you have value, if you say, hey, why don't we go eat at this restaurant? Okay, boom, you can move it over, right? When you don't have value, you try to move it forward, and they're too busy. Okay? A lot of guys are like, oh, I asked her this, she said she couldn't go. Nah, dude, if you'd had more value, she would have gone. Not all the time, okay? Don't go down that route of like getting a low self-esteem and stuff like that if people don't go. Believe me, I ask girls to restaurants all the time. A lot of time they say no. And it's not a value issue, it's just a logistical issue with their friends and whatnot. But the point is, when your magnet is strong, people, if you change the direction of the conversation, they're into it. If you say, let's change the venue, they're into it. If you say, let's here, come talk to me, they're into it. When you don't have the value, no go. All right? Now look, I want you to think of this as a warm end and a cold end of the pool. Okay? Warm end and cold end of the pool. So what that means is like this. Everyone wants to be in the warm end of the pool, right? Everyone likes the hot tub.
Yeah.
Everyone likes the hot tub, yeah. Right? So basically, no one wants to get kicked out of the hot tub. No one wants to be in the chode end of the table, right? When you're at a big dinner table, everyone wants to be at the cool person end. They don't want to be at the boring end, where everyone kind of just sits there looking over at the cool end. Okay? By the way, one thing I always do, I view it like the party's with me wherever I go. So I will sit arbitrarily. I don't mind sitting with people that aren't as popular and stuff like that because I'm going to make that the fun end. I'm not looking for other people for stimulation. I'd recommend you do the same. I really recommend that. Make that a habit. But point is, no one wants to get kicked out of the warm end of the pool. Okay? You ever had a buddy that doesn't make you look good in a social situation even though he's a close friend? Maybe it's harder to stay near him in the environment, right? Same kind of thing. I think a good person doesn't let that get to them. If they're with their buddy, they're with their buddy. But the point is, some people can't handle that. They're all best friends, and then when they're put in a different situation, it's not so good. All right? The natural inclination is just to slip into the pool where it feels good. Have you guys ever been talking to a group of people, and maybe you just found yourself addressing one specific person who is the most popular because you're trying to get their approval? All right? You can see this. If you're in a group, if you're in a circle, you might start to, you kind of talk to everyone equally, but you're kind of looking at this one main guy. We call that the anchor of the conversation. All right? The anchor of the conversation is the one who everyone's trying to get their approval. Everyone is listening to them. They're dictating the reality there, essentially.
That's like when you approach a group of girls, you find yourself talking to the one that's just the target and ignoring the rest.
Yes. And what that does is shows her that you place extremely high value on the interaction, therefore causing you to not look as attractive. Other times, however, by going for the girl you want, it looks attractive because you take what you want. You're not some bullshitter who's indecisive. So it's two sides to every coin. All right, so look. Next concept. Guess what, guys? Value. You don't like it? How about now? How about now? How about now, man? I think I goofed that one up last time too, didn't I? All right, look. Everything changes based on the situation. You know that same buddy that made you look bad in one situation? Well, guess what? Maybe if you go hang out in his environment with his friends, he makes you look pretty darn good, and now suddenly you find yourself clinging onto him. Okay? That leads us to the next term. We call it situational value. Social value can come as a result of a specific situation. All right? It's a form of value that isn't worth anything on its own, but in a particular situation, as a result of the environment, is worth a lot. A couple examples. The professor who gives the inspiring lecture in the classroom. The performer playing a concert. The guy throwing the party at his house. The DJ playing the music that everybody loves. The celebrity that everyone is whispering about, glances at. The bartender or the promoter with continual flows of people wanting something from them. All of those guys benefit from an increase in their situational value. The environment gives them a status that they wouldn't have on their own. And this leads to the next thing, which we call situational confidence. Situational confidence. What is it? Situational confidence is like this. If you know that you can anticipate a positive response because of your environment, you're going to feel confident. Does everyone here have one environment at least where they feel totally, totally confident? Good, okay? Everyone has that one environment where you feel like you can be you and you don't feel stifled in any way, shape, or form. So let's think about it. Take the professor. You've got a professor in school, maybe college, high school, if you think back. When he's speaking, if he has the respect of the class, typically the kids are not going to speak with the same depth, like resonation in their voice, the same conviction, that kind of thing, except usually that one rebel in the class, and by coincidence he's popular with the girls. Likewise, the guy throwing the party. He walks over to the group, introduces himself, everyone goes, just like we showed, oh, hey, right? Maybe they don't know that he's the host of the party. So he goes, oh, hey, what's up? And they're just like, oh, yeah, what's up? And then later they find out that's the host. It's like, oh, hey. Right? Funny how that works, especially in the city that we're in right now. All right? Oh, man, we used to throw a couple parties, let me tell you. Next, the bartender. He's in the bar, right? What happens when you put the bartender into a lecture hall? What happens to his confidence, his authority? It goes down. What happens when you put the lecture professor into a bar? Right? His behavior changes. Okay? There are simple changes in his behavior. That's the result of situational confidence. When you can assume value because of the environment, you have situational confidence. Think about that. You're like, hey, look, I've got value in this situation. I can just assume value. Now think of it this way. Value basically prompts you to be more attractive. All right, think about that, guys. How does value, knowing that you have value, how does it prompt you to be more attractive? Well, here's the most basic of basic distinctions. Really key this in. This is an important one. The most basic distinction that I can come up with is when you know that you have value, you will tend to be outside of your head. And when you don't think that you have value, you will tend to be inside your head. All right? Outside your head, inside your head. Another way that we call that, another expression, when you know that you have value and you have nothing to be concerned about in this world, you tend to be in the moment. When you don't believe that you have value, you tend to be what's called micromanaging. All right? So, in your head and in the moment, outside your head and in the moment, in your head and micromanaging. What an irony! What an irony! When you have value, you'll naturally behave in ways that just are in alignment with that. But when you need it most, to actually act confident, you will start thinking about it. Oh, how can I act confident? How can I make these people like me? Is that good enough? Is that good enough what I said? And how attractive is that? That's not going to attract anybody. That's only going to turn girls off. It's going to make you contrived. It's going to make you unnatural. All right? That is why you want to be outside your head and in the moment. So, some symptoms. When you're outside your head, you are enjoying yourself, acting in the moment, letting your real personality come out, saying what's on your mind, being unaffected by how other people react, being detached from the outcome of any one particular interaction, taking things as they come. You guys ever heard the expression, taking things as they come? Fucking fantastic. All right? Being fully present to what's going on around you and assuming and expecting that everyone is your friend. That's called in the moment, outside your head. What about when you're in your head? Okay? When you're in your head, you are not enjoying the moment for what it is. Think about that. You're not enjoying the moment for what it is, and you're always saying to yourself, look, here's the key. Here is the key, the underlying key to all of this. How can I make this moment better? That's the key right there. You're like, I'm not happy with the way things are. Like, I'm not comfortable with my social status here. How can I make things better? How can I get more status? How can I get more liked? How can I get more acceptance? How can I get more validation? That's when you go in your head. How can I make the moment better, not just enjoying it for what it is? Makes you feel unnatural, forced, needy, contrived. When you're in your head, what are the symptoms? Trying to change your personality specifically to make people like you. Feeling flustered by all the social things that you think you need to be doing. Being emotionally affected by other people's reactions. Feeling like some particular interaction has to work or you might not get another chance. That is huge, by the way. Feeling like this has to work or I won't get another chance of a girl with this quality for a while. Oh my God, like how to not get the girl 101. Trying to think, oh, horrible. Oh, like I'm like wanting to vomit all over my screen when reading this. Trying to think a step ahead and analyze how everyone will respond to you. Being too stuck in your mind to really even pay attention to what's going on around you. And feeling like you're being judged. Look, you want to know the best way to make people like you? It's the best way. This is the key. I've got the key for you guys. This is it. If you could just do this, you've got it. Just express your personality freely and let the chips fall where they may. That's the number one way to make people like you. Not everyone's going to like you. Some people are going to hate you, right? There's going to be haters when you do that. A lot of people hate it when someone can express their personality freely and not care because there's envy there. But the point is, if you can just express your personality freely and let the chips fall where they may, the majority of the time, that's going to be in your best interest. That's what's going to be the most attractive, both to women and to people in general. All right? And when I say people in general, that's because, of course, a guy who's a good people person is naturally going to be good with women most of the time. Don't try to influence it. Look, I want you guys to think about this almost like a religion. It implies that you're secure with who you are and that you probably have the value to back it up. All right? Think about that. Express your personality freely and let the chips fall where they may. What does it imply? You're cool with who you are, and you probably have the value to back it up. Isn't that interesting? It's by trying less and just expressing yourself and being you, you're actually communicating more value than if you're trying to communicate value. Isn't that funny? Right? It's a very Taoist concept, right? In action.
Could you repeat that, please?
Which part?
Well, the last one about the last sentence you were saying about when you're trying to add value, you're basically not, but when you're not.
Yeah, because you're like, this is like most guys. Okay, there's the girl. Eye contact. Voice. Funny lines. Hey. Right? Okay? That's the, and then, okay, got to do this, right? Then they're going into their head, like, where's my next piece? Where's my next line? Right? They're going into their head. Okay? What you'll find when you start using this kind of way of doing things is that anytime you go into your head to try to impress, you lose the girl. When you just chill, stay outside your head and enjoy the moment, it's like a magnet, and it just draws her towards you. So really try to remember that one. In fact, what I just said there, that little bit that I just said there where I said, when you really get into this, anytime that you go into your head, you find that you repel the girl, and when you just stay outside of your head, even if what you're saying is not as intelligent as if you would have gone into your head to fish it out, you'll still hold more attraction. And when you start to notice this, it's really going to mess with your head because you're going to be talking to the girl, and you're just saying nonsense, and she's completely into it. And then you think of and then she'll say something that will trigger your association in your mind of some cool thing that you want to say. But as soon as you have to you're like, oh, what's that really cool thing that I can do to prove myself and impress her? And as soon as you go into your head to try to impress her, even though what you said was impressive, she'll go, oh, that's really cool. Anyway, it was nice to meet you, right? Boom, later, okay? And you'll see that. You'll start to notice it. And it took me after I noticed it, it took me probably 3 months to even admit to myself that was going on. And then maybe another year to stop that habit of going into my head to try to drop my little smart, clever things. All right? So it does take time. But you know what's cool? When you actually can stop being in that mode where you're always trying to impress the person, even in subtle ways, even if you know not to quote unquote qualify yourself, just stop subtly trying to impress people. You can just enjoy being with them. You can just enjoy this very refreshing kind of vibe. And because so few guys are capable of doing that, women will very, very often tend to find that very attractive because it's conveying. Look, think of it this way. Say that you've got some impressive thing, right? You make a lot of money, or you climb some cool mountain, or just whatever it is that you're trying to think of. Okay, and then you're with the girl. What if rather than mentioning that, maybe you just save that one? Okay, maybe save it for deeper in the relationship, whatever. And just, if it comes out, it comes out, all right? Don't get me wrong. Stuff comes out, right? Stuff that's impressive that you did comes out. It will come out. But if you're having to like break the vibe and kind of like go into your head to try to seek a reaction, what you're going to find is you would have been better off just to be chill. Because what is it communicating if you could have just stayed outside your head and vibed? You're communicating so many more powerful qualities. The qualities that you're going to be communicating when you just vibe, it says, like showing that you probably have the value to back it up. Probably that, you know, you have a lot of friends in this world that you don't even need anymore, but maybe you're just enjoying her company, you're just enjoying talking to her, but you've got 5 girls at home and you don't even need anything, and therefore you're not even trying, right? And you're just, what you're sub-communicating is so much more powerful when you can just be in the moment and allow the words to arise and just sort of come out. You guys don't need to understand that, by the way. You'll understand that by the end of the 3rd day, probably. This is the 1st day. We'll go in really in-depth with what I'm talking about soon enough. Next principle. Look, in any social interaction, one person is reacting more to the other person, that person's reacting to them. Probably one of the top 5 most important principles in all this. Maybe even the most. You got to know this. In any social interaction, there is one person reacting more to the other person than that person is reacting to them. Always. That's always how it is. It might be 100 versus 0. It might be 51 to 49. It might be 50.01 to 49.9. But someone is probably reacting more most of the time, unless you have 2 very enlightened individuals, in which case it might be even. What does reacting mean? When we say someone is reacting to you, what does that mean? Think about this, guys. When you're reacting to someone, let's look at some of the symptoms. All right? Some of the symptoms that you're having a reaction. Women are wired to tune into this. 1, their natural personality is being affected by you. 2, the way that they feel about themselves is tied up in your responses to them. 3, their focus is more directed towards you than other people in the room. 4, they feel a heightened emotional response to physical contact from you. That's a big one, by the way. These 2 are the 2 biggies. 1, they feel a heightened emotional response based on physical contact, right? You guys know how when there's a girl you're really attracted to, if she makes physical contact with you, you feel that funny, tingly feeling? When she's reacting, she's feeling that. The other one, and this is the other biggie, is she's analyzing how she's taking up your space and time, all right? When someone is reacting to you, they're like, is this the best time to call them? Right? Like, say the girl's really reacting to you. She's like, should I call him? I don't know. Will he like me? It's that taking up of space and time. You guys know how the high-status person in the elevator will probably have more arm room than the other people? Maybe at the movie theaters, there's the armrest. And if you feel like the other person has more status, you're going to be too nervous to put your arm on the armrest because you're like, oh, I'm taking up their space. I'm not supposed to do that. These are dynamics of status, all right? And on some level, one person is reacting more to the other person than that person's reacting to you. Now, with women, this is an interesting one. Here's why. When a woman becomes really attracted, like when she gets really into state, like when she's just going nuts for you, she actually might start chasing you really hard and infringing on your space and infringing on your time like mad, all right? But then on the other hand, if she really likes you and she goes home, maybe she starts thinking about it, all right? Or maybe not. But I'll tell you that will definitely apply to guys. And when women see the guys are reacting by worrying about how they take up your space and time, that's going to be massive. Anytime that you're thinking of calling somebody and you're like, oh, is this the right time to call? Oh, am I using up their space or personal time? Probably on some level you view yourself as not having value, as having as high value as them. Likewise, you know how you guys might have a certain friend who if you needed directions you'd call, and then you have other friends who you probably wouldn't call? Right? Because getting directions is a menial task. Now, sometimes that's based on just how close the friendship is, right? You might have a high-status friend, but if you're really close friends, you might call them and ask for directions, and that's fine. But there are certain relationships that you'd be too afraid to do it because you'd be afraid of losing the relationship, okay? If it's quick, yeah?
Yeah, what was the courtesy? I mean, like, maybe you feel like calling someone at 2 in the morning or something, you know? They're all just...
No courtesy. Higher value wins all. No, I'm kidding. Of course, yeah. personal courtesy, always. I always try to make people feel good around me and never, I try not to mess with people or anything. Absolutely, it's one of my values. Yeah. But see, here's the thing. If I had to call someone at 2 in the morning, would I be nervous about it because I'm afraid they won't like me? No, I'm not worried about it. I just won't do it because I'd feel like a dick to myself. I'd worry about what I would think of myself. All right, now look. The point is, when you're having these kinds of reactions to people, you are doing what? Giving your power away. Think about that, guys. What does it mean? Think about it. Let's even come out with a better word. Handing your power away. Yep. You are handing your power away. You're saying, you know what you're doing? Think about it. Look at what you're doing. Look what you're doing here. You're not even actually like, this person doesn't even want you to give your power away. Like, do you guys like it when people are like nervous to call you and like use up your time? Do you like it when people, like, other than out of courtesy, of course, do you guys like it when people are like reacting to you and like giving you higher status? Right? Nobody wants, except like someone very thick in the grips of ego. You don't want that. Women don't want you to do that, right? A woman doesn't want you to be. She doesn't want you to be nervous around her. She doesn't want you to give your power away to her, of course. But you'll hand your power away anyway. And what's really interesting is that when you're not popular growing up, and you don't have a lot of friends or whatever, and when you hang out with kids that are popular and you give your power away to them, you think that maybe on some level you feel like they liked that, but in reality, everyone wants to hang out with cool, fun, interesting people that don't give their power away. Everyone would prefer to hang out with the charismatic dude that doesn't do that. Nobody wants you to give your power away. I think you guys should really think about that, okay? And if the person does want you to give your power away, that's probably not a friend that you want to have. So just keep that in mind. So we're moving towards the idea of core confidence here. The bartender, the celebrity, the party host, all these different people, what do they have in common? They have people reacting to them. They have an environment where they know that people will react to them. This is what leads to, and you guys might have heard this on the 2-hour free audio, this is what leads to the stereotypes, these funny stereotypes. For example, the Denny's manager that has had sex with 75% of his female staff. Okay? Does anyone here have a friend that like manages a restaurant that like hooked up with all the girls on the staff? Yeah. Always a couple in the room. Isn't it funny, right? The bartender that hooked up with all the super hot bar girls. Okay? Why is that? What kind of interaction is going on in that environment? Well, let's really think about this. Let's magnify it. In the environment, what you've got, say you've got the boss, all right? Let's say that this guy lives in his parents' basement. Okay? A, lives in the parents' basement. B, not that good looking. C, he drives a beat-up rust bucket car. What else? Let's make up a character here. D, he's a burnout. What's that? He's a pimple face.
Bald.
All right? He's bald. Okay, what else?
Short.
He's short. Okay, he's fat. Okay? What's he accomplished in life? Nothing. He became a Denny's manager. That's what he accomplished. All right? Okay? What's that? He has STDs. All right? Okay? He has the most STDs of anyone at his work. All right? Now, so basically, from a superficial level, right? Like from a superficial point of view, people are like, no, that guy couldn't get girls. That guy's got nothing. And logically, let's face it, a lot of these girls that work in restaurants are really physically attractive. I mean, some of them are smoking, right? And you see these like schmarmy guys that have hooked up like with all these hot girls. Like he's just run them through, right? And you're like, how? How is that? Well, let's look at what the girl is seeing in her environment. In that environment, what does that guy have? Situational confidence. So what are people doing? What's that?
People are reacting to him.
People are reacting to him. Oh yeah, what else?
He's got power.
He's got power. What else?
Compliance.
He has a lot of compliance, absolutely. What else? Status. Come on, guys. Think of it this way. If he goes to look at people's work, what happens? How does he's watching the way that they're working. People are like, oh, right?
Yeah, hypersensitive to like disapproval and like his judgment about it.
Yeah, his judgment. You guys hear what he said? People are reacting to the boss's judgment.
He's a leader of men.
Leader of men, right? How about his jokes?
His time's more valuable.
Yes, his time is more valuable. How about his jokes, guys?
They're all fun.
He does his dumb jokes. Hey, buddy, right? And everyone's like, right? Okay? See? The jokes. He's got that in that environment. Now, from an evolution, remember how I said we talk about cavemen? It is kind of weird that we talk about this whole caveman thing, kind of bizarre, but we look at it to understand what attraction is more clearly. So from an evolutionary point of view, the woman is not social, she's not wired to be like, I'm in this restaurant right now, and this is like, this little bubble doesn't represent the real world. The woman is not wired to understand that the world is a bigger place than Denny's. She's in the moment, right? From a moment-to-moment point of view, if she is seeing those kinds of sub-communications, she's going to have a lot of compliance towards that guy, right? She is going to, when they're out at the drinking after, when they all go out to the bar later, and they're all having fun and partying, and then he just leans in and starts kissing her, she's a lot more likely to go along with it because that's the instinct, all right? So that is where the situational confidence comes in. But here's the really funny thing. Let's imagine that there's a party. Let's imagine that there is an awesome party going on, filled with supermodels and whatnot, and you take Mr. Denny's, okay? He drives his beat-up car. They won't even park in front of the place. They quickly get rid of it, right, and hide it in some corner. And he shows up into that party. Now, he does not have his worker bees giving him props. He doesn't know anybody, right? And he's sitting there, and he's like, oh, what am I going to do? These, I don't feel comfortable here. He's probably not even thinking that. He's probably just like, I'll drink beers. Okay, that's what most guys think in this environment, right? So he's get drunk. So what's going to happen there? All right, probably he's not going to do so well, right? Because all those behaviors, he's no longer going to go up, make physical contact. He might not make jokes as easily because he goes inside his head analyzing whether or not the jokes are good enough. He's probably not going to be leading people around. His voice is going to change. His eye contact is going to change. His decisiveness is going to change. He's looking to other people. He's not the anchor of the conversations anymore. He's not centered himself anymore. He's wanting other people's approval. It's switched, all right? It has switched. But let's play a game. Let's play an imagination game. Let's say that there's some other guy there, even more overweight, big fat guy, right? Big fat dude. More sloppy looking, just sitting there. He doesn't even know anybody either, right? Say it's a pool party, and he's sitting there, and he's big and fat, and he's splashing around, and he's laughing, and he's having a great time. He's having the most fun of anybody there. He's just enjoying the moment. He's not letting the environment affect him at all. He's just loving it. He's completely comfortable with who he is. He doesn't mind that he doesn't have all those superficial qualities. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Wow, what could that, God forbid, he actually just likes himself. Maybe there is no logical reason why he likes himself. Maybe he just chooses to like himself. Why? What has he got going on? What is it, right? What is it? What's causing it? Maybe he owns a Fortune 500 company. Who knows, right? Maybe he has a 13-inch dick, right? And he knows how to use it, okay? Maybe he was maybe he's the president of some social club, right? Maybe he, what does he have? Oh, maybe he's like a movie producer, right? Or, wait, maybe he's just a guy. That's it. He's just a fucking dude. And that's it. That's the only reason why he does that. He doesn't need all those little reinforcements. He's just maybe having a good time. What? He could be enjoying himself in that pretentious party. He could actually be having fun in that pretentious environment, even without, his Boy Scout badges on. How could that be? How could that be? Maybe he's just a guy. You ever think about that? Did you ever think that there's nothing stopping you from going to the hottest club in your city and just owning it and having a great time and being the most fun there? Did you ever think that you could do that? Like, you just could? Not for any reason. You could just do it because you're just a guy? Isn't that a funny thing, right? But you see, that's what we call a core confidence. It's not a situational confidence. It's called a core confidence. It's called, I'm going to have fun, and I don't care what you think. I'm going to have a good time. Okay? And so look, everyone's reacting to this guy. Everyone wants his approval. Everyone feels a bit different than if he wasn't around. He is the life of the party. He's outside his head because he has no reason not to be. Everyone's reacting to him. That's it. And look, that's where attraction comes from, all right? Whoever has the most people reacting to their approval and is reacting the least in return will tend to have the most attraction. Okay? Think about that, guys. There's a lot of different ways we could define attraction, a lot of different angles that we could take. But isn't that an interesting one? To say whoever has the most people reacting to their approval and is the most indifferent about it basically is the most attractive person there, right? And we could probably come up with some counter examples and different definitions for attraction, but it's an interesting working definition.
So would that be like why a singer would have lots of attraction?
Singers have an amazing amount of attraction. I know guys that are singers in B-class groups like that you've never heard of that have women lined up outside their dressing room waiting to party right after all the time, you know? Like no-name guys and stuff, and just the women enjoy it. They like guys that can just express themselves. Because look, as a girl, why would she be attracted to a guy? Why would she be attracted to a singer? He goes up, he actually believes in his own standards. Like when you play music, man, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're really putting yourself out there. You're taking your creative vision of that music, and you're going to go up there and you're going to express that and not care what maybe, probably you care what people think on some level, but you obviously, you're able to sidestep that enough to go up and express yourself freely. And you're fun, and you're doing what you want, and you're not the same old stiff, right? And then women see all the people reacting to that, and it's just incredibly, incredibly attractive. Maybe not to all women, but to a lot. Some women might say, well, I'm not attracted to that, but they're not going to say they don't have friends that are, right? So look, I guess what it comes down to is core confidence versus situational confidence, all right? And having a core value. Think about what that really means, right? Like having core value as opposed to situational value. Like, that's kind of an interesting one. All right, stop and ponder that for a minute. It's one thing to say you should have core confidence, right? Why should you have core confidence? It's actually really simple. It's a really simple answer. The reason that you should have core confidence is because if you just have confidence in all situations, people will buy into it. That's it, right? It's just it's like you get the glitch. Like, oh, there's a glitch. If I just act like a rock star, I get treated like a rock star. Cool, right? So on one level of core confidence is people who recognize the glitch. Do you remember how I talked earlier? We led into this with social conditioning. We led into this conversation about how most people walk through life in a trance, in a walking daze. And when you have, core confidence is almost like, you recognize the glitch, that's how most people are walking around, and if you just appear a little bit more confident, you're going to control the situation. You're going to have the dominant reality. But, when you think about core value, we're almost having to dig a little bit deeper because you actually have to, do you remember how I said earlier, you have to make that piece into your reality? You have to have, the puzzle there that kind of goes click in your reality. Yes, I have core value. Because I bet you, look, if I were to say, who here has core value, I bet you that, everyone in the room, in a sort of a positive way would be, I have core value. I recognize that I have core confidence, right? Now, if I say, look, why do you have, so if you have core confidence, do you have core value? Everyone would go, yeah, I have core value. I'd say, why? And they'd go, because I'm me, or, because I deserve it, like L'Oreal or something, L'Oreal commercial. You know what I mean, right? There's no, and that's the thing. So on one level, you can get the glitch. You can see the glitches there of why you should have core confidence. And I think most of us get that, most of us get that there's a glitch that you can just sort of, if you just, put it on, you can get it. But I think to be that guy that really pulls, that guy that has, the real sexual abundance, that really pulls, that really, really gets it and really gets the results, you have to have had that click in your reality where it has clicked in your head that you really do have a core value, all right? You have to have had that click. And a lot of this seminar over the next few days is going to be how to create that click, and we'll go into that further. But I mean, even just on a surface level that we could even just cover right now based on what you guys know now, you could even just say, look, everyone enjoys a good vibe, right? Everyone enjoys a great vibe around them. And if you're just a person that's having fun, that's valuable, right? If you're a person that can express yourself freely, that's valuable. You're offering value to the situation. We're all human beings. Everyone appreciates a personal connection. Everybody appreciates fun. Everyone appreciates a good vibe. So the point is, just knowing that, why would you ever go out to some quote-unquote pretentious party, which, by the way, most people that call it a pretentious party are just feeling bad they don't know how to fit in, right? It's really true, because at a lot of pretentious parties, there's a lot of cool people there. But regardless, when you just simply know that by your personality alone is enough, you can give yourself permission to act in the way that you know is attractive, all right? And I guess the way that I would wrap this up would be to say this. To me, there's an ideal. There's an ideal to all of this. And, like I started off in the seminar where I said, you start off just kind of wanting to get a girlfriend or whatever, and then, your desires and your motivations evolve. Well, one of my evolved desires was to just be able to go into any environment and be that same guy. I wanted consistency, all right? I didn't want to be the guy where, if I went to that one club where everyone knew me, I felt okay. But then if I went to some foreign club where I didn't feel like I fit in, I couldn't be that same guy. That drove me nuts. I wanted to be able to go without my friends, without the shield of having my wingmen there, on my own. If I want, I love to go out with my friends, but the point is, I don't want to have to go out with my friends. I don't want it to be like Friday night, and if my buddies don't want to go out, I don't go out. And so the point is, say that I'm traveling, right? Say I want to go travel around and bounce around the planet on my own for a bit. I don't want to have to rely on having anyone there. I love to have people there, and if they're there, that's great, but I don't want it to be an absolute necessity. So look, to me, when I feel like I kind of tell the story a lot, but basically, when I hit a certain level where I knew that I was kind of like going the direction that I wanted, I remember I was on a flight that had a stopover in Dallas, Texas, and we were stopping there and pulling in, and they said, oh, there might be a flight delay. And I went, oh, damn, I've never been to Dallas. I'd love to go there. Maybe I'll go out tonight on my own, right? And I was like, yeah, I like that. That's cool, I can go out on my own in some brand new city and go have an adventure. I'm sure I'll make friends. I'm pretty darn sure I'll meet a girl, and some interesting things will happen, right? So, and I can do that, I can go out on my own into some new environment and meet new people, and it's not an issue anymore, right? Maybe, at that point I might not have been the most potent that I could be in a pickup, but I'd reached a level where I was really confident to go into any environment and be the person that I was meant to be, all right? So that, to me, is the core confidence, all right? Because, look, living here in Los Angeles, you are going to see some of the most extreme cases of situational confidence that you will see anywhere in the world, aren't you? You're going to see people that have incredible, you're laughing, right? Because it's so true, right? You will see people who have incredible amounts of social influence within their bubble. Take them out of their bubble, and they're just a couple of fucking oldsters sitting up on the bar with the drinks pressed against their chests. But in their environment, they're like gods, all right? Because they, maybe they're promoters, maybe they're rich people, whatever it is, right? Maybe they've got status. And that's the thing, right? And those people, think of living like that, where on one level, you know that you have all this status, but take you out of your environment and you can't be that guy anymore. You're not that guy anymore. And I've met people who are in that kind of situation, like, when I've had wealthy guys come take the boot camp, and they'll say over and over, oh man, you should see me back in my hometown. I own that place, blah, blah, I own that place. And I can recognize that because I think, damn, and I bet you they do, like, seriously. Like, and I've had, if you're an ex-client of mine, you're not the only one that said I've heard it from countless. I just want to say that, okay? So, no, but really, like, I've had countless, wealthy or popular people come through the program, and they tend to say the exact same thing. They'll go in there and they'll keep saying, man, you have no idea how much I own it at home. I don't need to do this. I don't need to deal with this, because they just don't know the ropes, right? They're still learning the ropes. And usually, like, the biggest epiphany that I'm trying to create if I'm dealing with a very, wealthy client is the biggest epiphany that I try to create for any of them is, dude, you don't need those shields. Come on. You don't fucking need it, all right? Drop them. Drop the personality shells. Put yourself on the line. Either make it, float or sink on your own feet, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the girl or not, but get it because of you. Don't get it because of this other shit. Like, you get her, you don't, you don't. But get her based on yourself. At least then you put your personality out there. At least you know that you had integrity, that you had that authenticity about you. Because you know what? Isn't it funny that when all things are created equal, the social environment is kind of like the great equalizer when you take out all that bullshit. Like, for example, say that you're out with your friends from work, right? Some of you guys here who might be studying this stuff have incredible social skills now. But you might have some boss at work that has all the status. You go out to the bar with your boss. the great equalizer happens, right? Because now you're out there having a great time, and he's like, oh, yo, there goes Joe. He's so crazy. You're crazy. Yeah, you're crazy, Joe, right? And they just sit there, and they're not able to talk to people in the bar, and they make excuses about it, right? I've seen some guys nodding here because they've had that, right? Oh, you're just nuts, man, right? Because they got taken out of their environment, I say forget all that stuff, okay? I say let's evolve past that. Let's not worry about any form of personality shell or situational-based confidence. Let's find confidence from the core. Let's find confidence from the value that you offer as a human being. And look, this isn't some feel-good shit, all right? I would hope it feels good, and I would hope it's uplifting, but you want to know something? The guys that have this down are getting laid more and by hotter girls and have better girlfriends than the guys that don't. Straight up, So on one level, it's like uplifting and heartwarming and all that stuff, but on another level, it's just fucking potent. It's just badass, Having core confidence is just a badass thing to have. And that's why I want you guys to be able to develop that. Rather than developing a prison, develop freedom for yourself and develop authenticity. All right, so look, we're going to wrap up today on an interesting topic. Like I said, today we're laying down a foundation, all right? Wax on, wax off. What that means is we're recovering the foundations and going deeper and deeper with each section. Look, we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, a topic a lot of people avoided, and a topic that I would like to talk about myself, which is that of love. All right? The word love, the concept of love, and where this fits into your own life. Now, isn't that an interesting thing? Because in this community, we generally shy away from that, right? We don't really talk about that. It's funny because we come into this, and one of the major reasons that most people are in this room is that at one point, we felt as though we're in love, fell in love with the girl, and started looking for information. What's the first thing that you learn when you find this stuff? Basic premise, if you want to be successful with one particular girl, learn to be successful with women in general. What does that mean? It means you get out of that model of the world where every girl that you meet that you like, you're falling in love with. Isn't that interesting? So we get away from that. In a lot of ways, one of the reasons why this community can at times come across as misogynistic is because even though the guys that are in it probably are more, loving type guys, if anything, so loving that they can send women running away from them, nonetheless, we sort of disconnect with that part of ourselves. How do most of us wind up here? How do most of us get into this? Here's the classic case. The classic case that I see works like this. You have a girlfriend. You're with her, right? And you're together, everything is great. Suddenly, you find out that maybe she cheated on you, right? Or maybe she just dumped you. Maybe she just broke up with you because she was no longer attracted. Maybe you choted yourself out, as is so commonly done. So what happens? Well, first of all, here's the shocking part. The most shocking part of losing your girl, in my opinion, is that the girl that you love, the girl that you were so connected to, changes, right? That person no longer exists. Right? This girl who was so sweet with you, that said certain things, that made certain promises, she no longer exists. And this is a very powerful thing, right? Like what happens, because it's like, where did she go? And maybe you still love that girl, right? Like you still have all those emotions, you still have all those feelings, but there's just these new negative feelings. So my friend Chris said to me when his wife left him, is that it's like he still loves his wife, but there's all of these new negative feelings that are mixed in. And it's like you want to still feel those emotions. You want to still feel that, but there's like this, like, it's almost like you're like going into like your love program, like, right? Like, oh, she's so lovely, because then you remember. And you want it back, right? You want those feelings to come back. You're not thinking, oh, I need to disconnect myself from those feelings and pull myself together as a man and, start living in abundance. You don't want that. Let's face it. When you've lost that girl, all that you want, let's face it, is you just want her back, right? That's what you want. You don't want to learn how to be a big pimp. You don't want to learn how to live in abundance with women. You don't want to go have to approach people. You don't want any of that. If you do it, if anything, you're just thinking that you'll get your girl back by doing it. Right? Like, I'll learn how to get these other girls and get her back, like Return of the Jedi. All right? Okay? Face my father, right? And so, and it's a funny thing, right? And isn't it amazing how we all have different faces? Like, we have different faces and personalities for different people that we meet. Like, the way that we might treat, a homeless beggar who's being really pushy might be different than how we treat our mothers. And the way that we treat, a girl that we care about could be different than the way that we treat a friend, and so on and so forth. And there's all these different faces. And when you're with that girl, the face that she gives you is like this, the couple face, right? Like it's like looking into a mirror and seeing the most beautiful reflection in the world back of love. And she loves you and all that kind of stuff. And you can lie in bed. My friend Timmy calls it the cherishing, right? And that's right. He's like, the cherish, right? And, he kind of teases it like that. But the thing is, that is what, that's what's taking place. Now, isn't it funny that when you lose that, you want to get it back, right? And that's the classic thing. I'm going to win her back. You think you're going to win her back. So what happens in the classic case? The guy goes, he resolves he's going to win her back. Why? Because he probably saw it on some Hollywood movie of social conditioning, right? And it drives him nuts because he says, it's like, the same girl, here's the biggest mind screw of it all. The same special places that you went with the girl, like say that she took you to her favorite place or you took her to your favorite place, she will go do all these things with the next guy probably. You know what I'm saying? Right? You know the special spot where you first cherished and made love? She'll go there with the dude, right? Why? Because that's what she knows, right? That's like that nice dress that you bought her so she could look really good for when you went out? She's going to wear that, if it's her best dress, with this guy. How is she not? Right? I mean, not all girls do that, and different girls do different things, but look, guys do the same thing too, right? Maybe you gave her a gift, and she actually re-gifted, right? And gave it, And you think, how? How could she be doing this? And she said, and see, here was the funny thing. Do you remember how we talked about different focuses? And how we each focus, we have different ways that we remember any different relationship. We have different ways that we remember friendships, and different things that we focus on. And when she goes to that other guy, when she leaves you, all the nice things that you guys had, because you had these nice things together. Like you had, when you first met, and your quirky story of how you first met, And you have your cool story of why you're together. Have you guys noticed that in a relationship? You'll oftentimes continually re-verbalize and reconfirm why you're together. Have you guys ever seen that? Right? You're always yeah, because we have this thing. It's our thing, right? You have your thing with the girl, okay? And you have why you continue to be together, or why you're together and you have a special bond that you couldn't get elsewhere. I think that's actually the big one, huh? Isn't that the big one? You have this special bond with the girl that you have some qualities. She keeps reaffirming it to you that she couldn't get anywhere else. So when she leaves you, it's so confusing. And especially because, look, what is the number one trance-inducing way to really feel the emotions of love with someone? Without any constriction or being stifled, just to really unstifle those feelings of love. What's the key word about love? It starts with the F. The key word to put yourself in a deep trance. What is a diamond?
Forever.
Forever. Right? I will love you forever. Okay? This is love, right? And the forever idea of it. And so you have your quirky thing, and you think, but she said forever, right? And that's how I felt when my girlfriend dumped me, 21 years old. She was 19. She had full right to break up with me, right? She had full right to go and see what else is out there. Of course, I was being highly young, just being a young guy. But the point is that I was like, how, right? This was forever. This was, this is our thing. And I have these qualities. You can't get that from somebody else. You can't get that from him. You can't get that, Then she's going out wearing the clothes you bought her, going to your places, and it is the mind screw of mind screws. And virtually every guy in this room has been through it. And virtually every guy watching these DVDs at home has been through it at one point. Everyone goes through this. It's a growing phase, right? It's part of growing up. And you know what? I don't think any of us would take it back, right? You wouldn't take back your experiences. It's part of what makes you who you are. It's just part of growing up, right? And, it makes you wonder, what is love, right? I mean, if it's fragile like that, if those kinds of things can happen, where does this fit into your life, right? And some people, of course, become jaded, right? They're like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm never going to have a girlfriend. I'm going to play the field. I'm not going to get screwed over, blah, blah. You get stuff like that. Then you get other guys that are just needy, right? Probably everyone here knows someone who will fall in love with any attractive girl that will have them, right? If she's attractive, oh, I'm in love. Oh, God, we cherish, blah, right? And they do that all the time, okay? And there's like a virus, sure, yeah. And there's different ends of the continuum here. But what is love, right? And let's think about it. What are the different, when we think about love, what are the different definitions? Like, is love two teenagers in the back of a car scrambling for a condom? Right? Okay? Right? It can be, at the time. Right? So, is love, a pair of newlyweds on the first night of their wedding? Is love an old couple sitting on the couch? They haven't had sex in 20 years, but they're deeply in love. Right? Because it don't work no more. Right? But, okay? Yeah, plumbing's broken. But, what is it? Right? And what's interesting is that English, as a language, in many ways dictates our concept of reality. The language that you speak dictates the emotions that you feel and the experience of the world that you have. And so, see, in most cultures, or I don't know if it's in most, but I know in many languages, there's many different words for love. All right? You have brotherly love. You have love for a father, love for a mother. Then you have infatuation. And then you have, long-term love, things like that. And when you break those up and you don't have this all-encompassing word that's supposed to mean everything, then the self-hypnosis is not so common. But understand that. Understand that more than anything, love is a self-hypnosis. All right? A lot of people conceive of love as having supernatural properties. They might think that everyone has one perfect soulmate. They might think that love lasts forever, or true love lasts forever. They might think that you can only fall in love a certain number of times in your life. One person on the forum recently kept saying that the first love is the best, so he was going to keep trying to get back his first love. Very bizarre. Really bizarre. That's what your mom says, right? Okay. People might believe that fate will handle love for them, right? Like, you shouldn't try to meet someone. If that was true, then me and my girlfriend certainly wouldn't be a good item, because I did a lot of very active, deliberate things to land myself in the situation I'm in right now, right? But they think, no, it'll just happen. Fate will take care of it. And you know what? With those kind of belief systems, that there's these powerful forces at work, it is no wonder that people self-hypnotize themselves into all sorts of wacky beliefs and to a lot of emotional pain, into a lot of unpleasant experiences. All right? Is love a feeling of attraction, a feeling of connection, a feeling of lust, a feeling of physical attachment, maybe underlying oneness? What is it? What does it mean to you? Is it anxious codependence? Isn't that a funny one? Look at that one. That is a funny one. Mistaking neediness for love. Here's what is to be understood. Love is not caused by another person. It's a self-hypnosis. All right? It's a trance that you put yourself in. It's caused by yourself. It's not something caused by another person, caused by ourselves. And as we loop our thoughts over and over around a concept of a particular person, our mind shifts the way that we perceive them, and suddenly everything makes sense. It's love. All right? And as it takes hold into your psyche, your physical body follows suit, spinning and intensifying your emotions until you are fully enraptured. That is what love will do to you. It will take a concept of a person and it will make them into something they're not, and can even make them into an object to you if you're not doing it in a healthy way. So the thing is that, understand that. Your concept of your girlfriend, that's a concept that you have. But at the same time, that may not be who she is as a person. So let's make this even more clear. Why don't we draw a distinction almost between the chode version of love and what love becomes to you when you've been in this for a long time, okay? To a chode, he is walking around with a gap in his self-esteem. And so when he finds that woman, that little gap gets a plug in it for a temporary period of time. And he feels what a cool guy would call normal. That's the emotions that he's feeling, that good feeling in your body that you have when you're a good guy, that good feeling that you have in your body, that is what you're experiencing if you're a chode and you're getting a bit of validation. All right? You're getting a taste of validation. And then, of course, the language does its work, spins its effects on you, and then you think that you're in love with that person. Many times that can be codependence. You see, look, that good feeling that you have in your body, that really good feeling of being you, is something that you should be able to self-generate. It's something that comes from within yourself. All right? And when you love somebody, maybe, that's that personal connection that you create with that person, and it can fuel it even more. But anytime that you lose that other person out of your life, that good feeling should not be going away. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to experience loss and to go through the healthy, cathartic experience of experiencing loss. But beyond that, we're going into unhealthy land where a lot of guys are stuck. All right? Because essentially what's happened is they are disconnected from their self-esteem. They use the girl as a pillar in a new sense of reality. Remember how we talked about situational confidence and how when you have certain situations you feel better about yourself and more confidence? Well, a lot of guys use a woman that they have as a sort of form of situational confidence. And when they lose that woman, their mojo is taken away from them and they feel lost. The house of cards crumbles. That's what's going on. All right? Here's another fact. You don't know somebody until you've been with them a long time. I'm sorry. Sorry to tell that to you. Look, me and my girlfriend, we hooked up within about under an hour of meeting each other. And from a certain perspective, you could call that love at first sight, right? You could say, love at first sight. Of course, it was a lot more involved in me, like, pulling her hair and screaming, say you love me, bitch, and fucking smack her ass, right? And she likes that kind of thing. But the point is that, right? She'd be like, yeah, right? So, but the point is, you could call that like love at first sight, right? And because it worked out, because the longevity was there, because I was able to maintain the, the multiple several year relationship now, being together for over 3 years. But the thing is that with, in reality, I wasn't coming from a position of lack, right? I wasn't coming with an empty cup looking to be filled or looking to be completed, all right? So there was the offering and value that was there. And she's a really high self-esteem person, so it was like a fueling fire. It wasn't like this sort of weird codependence or anything like that. And I guess you could say beyond that, a lot of guys don't realize what a relationship really is or what it means to get involved with somebody. I mean, look, when you get involved with somebody, you're taking on all their problems as your own in a lot of ways, right? When you get deeply involved. I mean, you're getting involved with their parents, their family life. If she has, I have a friend whose girlfriend got cervical cancer, and he had to go through that whole thing with her. I've had friends who, whose girlfriend is broke, and they have to financially support them. Health issues, family issues. You don't just pick a hot chick and fall in love, okay? You know what I'm saying? You don't know her. You think that you can tell if she, for example, if she's someone who's highly prone towards deceit. You don't know if a girl's telling you the truth about herself or not. You have no way of knowing. Do you think that you're the Hardy Boys, right? And that you can tell and that you can know a girl just by immediately just getting to know her? No. Look, if it works out, it works out, and that's great, and that's what you want. But the point is, you don't just fall in love with any person, okay? You get to know them. And this is where a lot of guys go wrong, though, because here's what happens. When you meet a girl in a club, it is so nice. Like, say out at a nightclub, say during the day, and you have an incredible connection. Like, look, you're meeting the girl, you're the man, you're the big pimp, she's really into you, she compliments you, maybe you make out, you're sitting there, you're stroking her hair, that kind of stuff, and you've got a chemical eruption going on, man. It is addictive. Could be easily the most addictive feeling in the world, all right? It is amazing. And when you feel that, one way to intensify it is to think you really have a connection with this girl. But what tends to happen is this. When the girl sees you as the abundance-minded guy, right? She sees you as the cool, non-outcome dependent, non-reaction seeking, not attached to any kind of result. You're attractive. And so she has one type of personality towards you, and that's the personality that you're getting to know. That's the personality that you know. You're getting to know her, I'm with a hot guy personality. But then what happens is, as you're being nice to her, and then you start to feel those good emotions, you feel attached, because you're like, we're on the same team now, we're on the same team. And then suddenly what happens is you start to chode yourself out, right? Because you become attached to the outcome. Now she says she has to go to the bathroom, and that same fucking cool guy that was all like, yeah, like when you first met, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, is she coming back? Oh, is she coming back? And you're feeling that loss. You're feeling like those chemicals in your body, like, where is she? And you're going, where is she? Where's she at? Right? Because you want her. Then you see her, maybe as she comes out of the bathroom, she starts talking to some other guy, right? Do you man up and go in there and yank her out? No, of course not. The chemicals in your body, you can feel, they kind of go like that. You feel yourself being deflated. You can feel yourself losing state, all right? And we're going to talk, state is going to be a huge theme of tomorrow. You feel yourself falling out of state, losing your mojo, losing the nimbus is dimming, as they would call it, all right? We'll talk more about that later. Don't worry about it. So look, what happens is your concept of what love is and wanting to fall in love is actually interfering with the process of finding that great girl. Because the truth is, she may like you when you're acting attractive, but as soon as you stop acting that way and you become outcome dependent, it's now a new sort of thing. What does that mean? Does that mean never fall in love? Of course not. But what that means is this: you're a man of standards. You have to be a man of standards. And you can be getting to know a girl and you can have incredible connection with her and feel good and enjoy it. But you remember how I talked about paradoxical things? Like on one level, you know what people are like, and another level, you enjoy them and think the best. The same concept applies here. You can feel good. You can bathe in the emotions and bask in them and enjoy them. But at the same time, you cannot be losing state as you start to, if the attraction starts to flicker out. And I see this is a huge sticking point. I see this as a huge sticking point between guys and reaching a mastery type of level, okay? Like on an advanced level here, where what happens is they're very good in the field, but when they start to get in with a girl, they become outcome dependent about halfway through the interaction because they're feeling those emotions, and they wind up losing the girl. And believe me, that's a painful way to lose a girl. It sucks. So how do we move past this? You know what I'm saying? How do we get past that kind of a mindset, that kind of approach, that kind of way of coming at this sort of thing? Again, you have to know that you do not know somebody until you know them. Don't make judgments. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume anything about the girl. Look, this girl might be seeing 5 different guys, and she's going to continue seeing them even when she's with you. Even though she's telling you she loves you and you've got the biggest cock ever and whatever she's telling you, okay? It doesn't really matter. She could be seeing other guys. She might have countless orbiters that are driving her around and stuff like that and doing favors for her, and every so often she does a favor for them back, all right? You don't know what the girl's like, right? She might be a liar. She might be deceitful. She might be needy. Have you ever thought of that one? You guys might think, see, any of you guys who are coming from a position of scarcity, I know what you're thinking. You want a needy girlfriend. That's what you want. From scarcity, I said. If you're coming from a position of scarcity, you want the needy girlfriend. You're like, I want the girl that's calling me. I want the girl that can't get enough of me. But when you start coming from an abundance position, you get the reaction that you just heard here, which is blah. Okay? Blah. Right? You can't even get it to work when the girl's needy. Anyone ever had that experience? Like you're dating like a cute girl and then she gets needy and no worky anymore.
Just don't want her in
right?
space.
Done. Just get away. Blah. Gross. Ugh. Right? I don't know if maybe that's just like when you've moved past neediness yourself, it almost becomes your shadow. Like you
start being the flake.
Yeah. You start being the flake, right? But like the thing is, like when you've worked so hard not to become needy, and then you see that behavior, in a lot of ways it can mess with your head because you're like that's the old me, ugh, right? And you can feel that way. In a certain way, I also think that being in a relationship, you do have to tolerate a level of neediness from the girl because, when a girl really likes you, she is going to just act on her emotions, and that can be a sticking point too. But point being, look, you don't know the girl, all right? So assume nothing. Enjoy the experience, enjoy the emotions, but don't be attached. Do you guys understand what enjoyment without attachment means? Enjoy the experience fully, to the fullest extent, but don't have any attachment. Because believe me, that same girl that was one way, as soon as she sees that you're attached to the outcome, will transform right before your very eyes into a different person. All right? The outcome, like, I want to be with this girl now, we're going to be together, blah, blah. Okay? And I think being attached to the outcome of sex can be a negative thing. I also think being attached to having a relationship after sex can be a negative thing. I think being attached to just getting the extraction of the phone number during the first club meeting or whatever can be tough. Again, paradoxical views. On one side, we have like as Ozzy would say, close, man, just close, right? Go fucking close. No, what? I need some report. No, close, right? On the other side, we have the non-outcome dependence, and it's two paradoxical concepts. You have to have a good handle on both of them. Anyway, I guess the way that I would wrap it up is like this. Love is something that you experience within yourself, all right? It's something that you experience when you're walking down the street. It's something that you experience when you're talking to a friend. It's something that you experience when you look at the sky. I swear to God, man. And this is kind of a funny thing. I think people, honestly, think I might be kidding when I say this. But to become a really, really good at picking up chicks, like this is kind of funny. To be amazing at picking up chicks, you've got to get that almost like that spiritual side of yourself handled. All right? And that sounds kind of funny, right? Like to mac the hose, okay? You know, you've got to get that, like, you've got to get almost like your relationship with God handled. You know what I'm saying, right? And when I say that, by the way, that doesn't necessarily even mean any type of religion or anything like that. But when I say that, I almost mean like your place in the world, right? Even as an atheist, right? Like whatever your beliefs are, you have to have that, like that good feeling independently about the world, like that the world is a good place, that the world is a place where you're at home, the world is a place that's beautiful, you know? And when you can experience that, you become a person who is independently happy and independently validated and independently amused. And suddenly, and isn't that funny, the funny paradox of it, suddenly when you have, you know, that good feeling within yourself and you don't even need a relationship anymore, you're not even thinking about a relationship. In fact, a relationship has hit a point where it's kind of a stretch for you. Like, do I want to do this right now? I'm so fulfilled in my life. This is a stretch. And suddenly, the girls that you meet, now they want to be your girlfriend. Now you've got the girls popping up behind fire hydrants and jumping out of hedges trying to be your girlfriend, right? Because you have, that's the paradox. Yeah, it's the ultimate paradox. You know, what do they say? The hungry don't get fed or something like that? And so basically, you want to achieve that self-fulfillment. And isn't it funny? Because you'll start off like, I just want a girlfriend so bad. Ugh, I have to become self-fulfilled? Fine. Whatever it takes, man. I'll become self-fulfilled to get a girlfriend. And you'll be doing it for all the wrong reasons. But you know what? Whatever works, man. I mean, if that starts you off on the right path, and then you start to get a taste of self-fulfillment, and you start to really get into it, that could be the start of a beautiful thing. I guess what I'm saying is that when they say that, like, you know, validation comes from within or love comes from within, like that good feeling is something that you should feel about the world. And once you feel that about the whole world, then you can focus that on one person, and it's no longer needy, it's no longer attached, it's no longer codependent. It's almost like they say, if you have a bushel of flowers, it's when you clip that flower to try to make it yours that it dies, all right? Because you're trying to say, that's mine, okay? And I'm going to possess it, and I'm going to allow that into my ego structure. And I'm going to base my sense of who I am based on my relationship. And if I were to lose it, it would be horrible. But you know what? When you clip the flower and you try to make it yours, it just dies, right? You're suffocating it, okay? It's like a butterfly. You don't just grab it and crush it. You just let it stay there, all right? You know what I'm saying? That's what most guys do. They go, ugh, and then it's dead. What the fuck did I do, right? And that's where it goes wrong. So look, that good feeling, I want you guys to really think about this. And we talk about social conditioning earlier today. That's kind of how we're wrapping up. That good feeling that you feel in your body, like just that fucking glow that you feel every day of your life, that's something that you have on your own. And most people rely on consumerism to get that, or rely on validation to get that. But that's something that comes from within. We're going to talk tomorrow and the rest of these next few days about what that's really all about, okay? But really, I guess what I want to say to you guys is I want to get you more towards a mode of offering value. You're not walking up with a half-filled up cup trying to say, like little Oliver Twist, may I have some more, right? You're not looking to self-seek in another person, all right? And I guess that is when, you know, love will enter your life, all right? That's when that will come, okay? And when you come full circle. Now, look, today, we've covered a lot of foundational stuff, all right? This is day 1 of 4. And I love the fact that the 4 days allows us to look at these foundations really closely so that we can have them in mind as we go deeper down the rabbit hole over the next 3 days. Now, like I've told you, this is my, I guess my 5th time, depending on which ones you count, doing the seminar. And every time the guys have walked away on the first day kind of like, this is really interesting. What am I going to use this to apply to my life? And in the day 2, 3, and 4, that's when the epiphanies are going to start to build, okay? Every day that we do this, you know how a lot of time guys will give their best material on day 1? This is the building material, all right? So we are going deeper and deeper and deeper. I want you guys to go out tonight, have a good time, and the lesson for tonight, what I really want you guys to think about, if we think about what lesson you guys are going to take away from this tonight, is do what you want to do, all right? My friend Alex, he says, I do what I want when I want. My friend Nathan, he says, I'm going to be the person I'm meant to be, all right? My friend Tim, he says, don't give a fuck what anybody thinks of you, okay? And these are a lot of sort of catchphrases that we have, and we have these for very, very good reason. So I want you guys to think tonight about the kind of behaviors that you have when you're on your own, right? The kind of behaviors that you have when you're being the kind of person that you want to be, and I want you to communicate with everybody that way. I want to think of how you feel when you feel good, and I want you to allow yourself to feel that way. All right? What we've done here is we've gone from social conditioning to a better place, right? We've looked at sort of the ailments of social conditioning, and we've moved you towards a better place. We've moved you maybe from here to here. And over the next few days, we want to get you over to here. All right? So I want to thank you guys very much for coming out and listening today. And I want you guys to have an amazing day. Thank you very much. And it's day 2. Yeah. We're about 25% of the way in, okay? Think of it like going deep underground, all right? We're about 25% to the depth that we're going to go, okay? You could probably still see the lights of the surface, and we're just going to keep on going. Oh, man. Oh, great stuff. If we can find a bottle, that'd be great, too. All right, so... it's a real pleasure for me to finally get this stuff out there because, we've been teaching this stuff on the smaller scale now for about, I've been teaching on a smaller scale for a couple years, and then, we've been doing these seminars about a year. So you're starting to see a shift within the community with the types of skills that we're teaching. You're seeing guys, really, really becoming natural. Like I said yesterday, my goal in all this is so that you guys not only have the ability to do really strong walk-ups, like, see that woman that you want, know how to walk up, know how to get a lot of attraction going, know how to move things forward, take it all the way to the end. Not only that, but I want to see you guys at the highest level of general social skill as humanly possible. I want to see you guys, I guess the best way I could put it is like this. Do you guys remember when you were a kid and some kids were popular and some kids were not popular? And it was almost like there was this glass wall that maybe separated you from them. Or maybe some of you guys in here were the most popular kids, in which case I'm massively envious. No, just kidding. But really, there was like these sort of little things that put a sort of glass wall maybe between you and them. Or if you were one of them, then maybe that put it between you and the kids that wanted to be friends with you. Point being is that I guess you could say that once you have this stuff figured out, like I think especially by the time that we've gone through this weekend, you guys will have a very, very clear idea of what that glass wall was. And you'll also see that it was mostly of your own making, all right? Mostly it was just your own, you were just giving your power away in a level that nobody even wanted you to, and you're just going to stop doing it, and things are going to start to turn around for you. Sucks to be that guy. All right, does anyone want to do a cell phone check? Okay, I'll give you guys 2 seconds to check your cell phones. That was taught very thoroughly. Anyone that watches the program Foundations or takes a boot camp can learn the walk-up skills, can learn how to spark attraction, extract, and that kind of thing. This is a program that, I guess you could say, back when I had the cold approach skills, I can remember times like, for example, when I first came out to Los Angeles, and I would go to a party up in the Hollywood Hills or something like that, and I would be sitting there trying to have a good time, but I'd be like, oh, am I supposed to be doing my cold approaches right now? Can I fit in with these people? And in a lot of ways, I felt like I did not fit in with those people, like it was like everyone was having more fun than I was, that kind of a thing. And what I want to see for you guys is not only a level where, you know how to do walk-ups and that kind of a thing, but I want to see you guys being able to fit in with social groups really well, be the man, that kind of thing, all of that stuff, okay? Total natural. And essentially what I want to see for you guys is that this is handled, all right? Like when I say handled, I mean like really, like it's like you've got it handled. You don't need to think about it anymore, Some guys take that too far and they just stop going out and they stop socializing. They're like, oh, that's handled. I'm just going to sit inside and play Warcraft. But the point is, I would like it for you guys, as long as you're, going out and being social, that you guys have got this handled. And that's really the goal of this program. So look, let's move into the next concept. Identity. What is identity? All right, first of all, before we even start covering this topic, I want to say that the topic of identity is covered differently by different people. So some people will talk about identity like, what do you tell a girl you are? Like, are you a rock star? Or are you a astronaut or something like that? All right? So that's how some people look at identity. And actually, any term that's in here and any term that we talk about this weekend are just the ways that I'm coming at it. It doesn't make them right. So, for example, I talk about concepts like masculine polarity or the ego or self-esteem or any, identity or concepts like that. And if you ever if you're ever having cocktails with someone and start getting into a debate about what these terms mean, bear in mind that there's no official definition. These are just the working definitions that I'm using to talk to you guys about. Even beyond that, something that Eckhart Tolle says, who's definitely a favorite author of mine, is that anything that's ever said is really just a signpost leading towards a certain state of being. So even though we have all of these concepts and we're throwing out all this jargon at you and principles, ultimately, knowledge of these principles is not what's most important. It's the place that these principles will bring you to ultimately, all right? They're signposts to get you to a certain way of being. Don't get caught up in the principles. The principles are just a signpost. I like to get all nerd with it. I like to break it down in detail. But nonetheless, it's just signposts in a certain direction. So identity. What do I think about as being identity? Well, first of all, I would ask you this question. What would the world be like if no other people existed? Okay, think about that. All right, the world without other people. Has anyone in here, really favorite movie of mine, or a favorite TV series of mine, has anyone ever seen the Japanese anime series Neon Genesis? Couple nerds in the house? All right, that's a favorite of mine. Neon Genesis, is it called Evangelion? Yeah? Okay, and they've got the 2 alternate endings, right? My favorite was the original ending, and then they redid the ending as well, and that was cool too, but I like the original ending. Anyway, look, one of the sort of ideas that they talk about in that anime series, like this 24-episode thing, is the idea of unity versus separateness, and how essentially by having other people in the world, that can lead to things like judgment, self-hatred, comparing yourself to other people. So if you think about it, if nobody else existed, in some ways you could say that would be a good thing. Because ultimately, you would never have to feel bad about yourself. You'd never have to feel low self-esteem in comparison to other people. You would never have to make a negative comparison, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful? All right, never have to feel bad ever again. Oh, it's so great, man. All right. On the other hand, though, your life would lose a tremendous amount of meaning. You would lose a lot of the context, for like the way that you make meaning out of your life. You would lose social relationships. You would lose so much. So it is sort of like a pros and cons sort of thing, which I would say mostly if no other people existed, that would be totally fucked. All right? Now, if we think about that deeper then, all right, what is identity? All right, what is your identity? And the way that I look at it is identity is a concept that relates you to and also separates you from your social environment. Okay, it relates you to and separates you from your social environment. It's your concept of who you are. It's your concept that says, here's how I'm different from people. Here's where I stand in relation to people. Here's what makes me who I am. Here's what makes me, I guess you could say, here's what gives me a certain status relative to other people. And as a result, I can act in all of these different ways. Right? Like, oh, I'm this cool guy, so I can act like this. I can act however I want. Oh, I'm not the coolest guy, so I cannot act however I want. That's sort of how I think about identity. All right? If you think about it, identity has sort of a thing like this. You might view yourself like on a scale. We could imagine this. Do you guys have totem poles in America? Yeah. Okay. Do you guys know what a totem pole is? All right, that's like an Indian carving of a tree with like different heads in it. You might imagine yourself being at the top of the totem pole, in the middle of the totem pole, at the bottom of the totem pole. All right? Just depending on where your self-concept is at. Because ultimately, by recognizing the differences between yourself and other people, you do form that concept of who you are and where you stand. All right? So look, we are always processing the world through that little seed in our mind that is our identity. That is such an important concept to understand. We are always processing the world through that little seed in our mind that is identity. What we perceive, the way that we perceive it, what we think about other people, the way that our emotions respond to other people. For example, if you think that you're down here and some guy comes in up here, your experience of that person is going to be dramatically different than somebody else who is up there. But see, ultimately, from a social perspective, you have the ability to do whatever you want to do, really, if you think about it. Like, you have the ability to walk into any nightclub, restaurant, shopping mall, see the girl that you want, be the man, yank her out of there. You have that ability. There is nothing that is actually stopping you, all right? Something that I'm going to talk about today is the idea that every single one of us here has a concept of what a cool guy looks like, what a popular guy looks like, what a guy who's successful with women looks like. We all have that concept. But at the same time, we do not give ourselves permission to be that guy. All right? The only thing that is really stopping you from being that guy is your sense of identity. All right? Who you think you are. If you think that you're this guy, then there's a lot greater chance that you're going to go out and do the things that you're supposed to be doing. So look, ultimately, from a social perspective, the potential that you have is virtually infinite, all right? Like, from a social standpoint, the level of success that you could have socially, there's almost no limit to it. But it's your belief about who you are that's going to make you go forward, or it's going to pull you back. That's really what it comes down to. Now look, think about your identity as being something that can help you very, very deeply. Like, have you ever heard someone in a tough position say, look, I know who I am? Anyone ever heard that? Like maybe even someone who went to jail for the wrong reason, and he said, you know what, I know who I am, and that's all that mattered, okay? That's like, you hear that kind of thing sometimes. Likewise, your identity can also hold you back, and your identity can hold you back tremendously, all right? Does anyone here ever try to talk to their friends about this type of material? Yeah? Try to bring it up with your friends, try to say, oh, hey, there's this cool new stuff that I'm studying. You guys should come, you guys should check it out. Okay? What kind of response did you get? Laughter? Has anyone here ever had a friend that they tell this stuff about, like they talk about this stuff to, and their friend's just like, oh, cool, great. Yeah? Like 2-3 people in the room? Okay? Oh, a couple. All right. Now, is that the majority or is that the minority of your friends?
1 out of 20.
Yeah, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30? All right. Okay, good. So my example held. Okay, I was like, what? It's never happened before, right? All right, so look, why is that? Why is it that when you talk to people about this, they get this sort of glazed over look in their eyes? I call it the glazed over zombie look, all right? Where you talk to them about it, and they just kind of go like, they're like, oh, yeah.
So outside their model of reality.
Yeah, outside my reality, right? It's like, oh, yeah.
It's like a challenge to their identity.
Yeah, like, oh. Nah, dude.
I'm pretty good with girls. I don't need that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't. I got a girlfriend, dog.
waiting for the
I'm
special
good,
woman.
right? Nah, dude. That's it's okay. It's okay.
It's like the same look that you get if you were trying to explain like quantum physics to like a 6th grader. Like you have no concept.
Yeah,
I've done that.
yeah. And Hey, really? Okay. All right. So like, okay. So and isn't it funny, right? Because if you look at all the popular magazines that are out right now, like Maxim magazine, FHM, that kind of stuff, there's features about how to pick up girls all over it. Like, yeah, well, it's like written by like random dudes, right? Like, I mean, maybe some of them are really good, I don't know, but most of it is like they've got some writer, like just an arbitrary writer, like you're on dating, Joe, right? And he's like, okay, right? And he's like, clean your car here, right? And they like put a hot girl picture paste on the article, and then that's it, you know? I used to like read these things like really intensely, like taking it as authority, like, oh, interesting. This is a really big publication. This guy really knows what he's talking about, right? Okay. Now that I've been at a upper end of a business, I see that sometimes the people that you think are appointed so authoritatively are just arbitrary, right? And that's business is not really what you think it is all the time. But look, I guess you could say you would think that something so mainstream, something that so many people are interested in, and something that so many people talk about all the time, like how much time do guys spend talking about chicks? And yet when you actually say, all right, dude, look, why don't we stop talking about it? Why don't we stop this jibber jabber and go make something happen, right? And it's like, nah, dude, nah, dude, right? And it's very similar, like, if you grew up in a small town, It's almost like, you know when you talk to a stripper, for example, and she's like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor someday. I'm going to go back to med school, right? Or like you've got your buddies like that think, you know, they're going to become like big millionaires, right? Like almost everyone these days thinks they're going to become a millionaire because they're seeing all these like millionaire mindset programs and stuff like that telling them they're going to be millionaires. And they just have to manifest it or whatever it is, right? They neglect the massive, massive amounts of hard work that typically goes into it. But regardless, most people are just not able to, it's kind of like anything that involves elevating your status. Why don't we put it that way, okay? Like on that totem pole back there, anything that's going to have to do with elevating your status or you know, going beyond the constraints of your identity. If the idea that you're talking about with someone goes beyond the constraints of who they think they are and what they think they're capable of, they will block it out. All right? They're going to nix that out of their minds. Immediately, the subconscious takes over. The unconscious mind takes over and nixes it out immediately. In the same way, look, if I start talking, you guys, maybe a lot of guys in here think they're going to be millionaires, or maybe some guys are. But if I start talking to you about becoming a billionaire, all right, like, you know, we should be billionaires, right? We should make like 100 billion, okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm okay. It's all good, right? That's what most guys are like when you start talking about success with women. And it's interesting because there's a lot that's attached to success with women. We're going to talk about that later, why success with women is actually representative of all these different areas involving status and why that is so inextricably linked to your self-concept and why so many people cannot achieve success with women and it's just completely outside their reality, okay? But let's think more about like even how your identity could confine you even more. A lot of people will say, and this is the big one, all right? This is the big one when you're teaching guys success with women. They say, that's not me. You ever said that? Yeah. If I want to put you in a ballerina outfit, what would you say?
Yeah, that's not me.
That's not you, right? How bad would it be to walk down the street in a ballerina outfit, like a pink tutu?
There's worse things.
Worst things in the world? That's a good attitude. I agree, okay? I do think there's worse things in the world. But you know what? Most people would experience a feeling similar to a severe threat to their well-being walking down the street in a pink tutu, right? Because they think that's not me. Well, in the same way, as a boot camp instructor, one of the constant things that you're not worrying about, but like, not worrying at all, but like moderating or dealing with is that concept of that's not me, all right? People wanting to try new things, try new types of, you know, aspects of their personality, new dynamics of their personality, and they say, that's not me, all right? So your identity can not only help you in the sense that you're like, look, this is who I am, I know who I am, I know what I deserve out of the situation, and there's no question about that. I have personal boundaries, but simultaneously, it can also hold you back because you're like, oh, that's not me, all right? And that's always, you know, that's never a great thing. Now look, when you think about your identity, when you really get into it, it's kind of funny when you really go back, when you think about your personality. Because guess what, guys? A lot of your identity and a lot of your personality is totally, totally arbitrary. So arbitrary, okay? It could have developed one way, it could have developed another way, all right? Like even take myself. I happened to grow up with a really, really badass schoolyard bully living next to me, okay? Like this was like the most badass kid in like the whole neighborhood, and he used to beat the crap out of everybody. So this kid would just knock me, man. I mean, this kid would just come, this kid would take branches off the trees and like tie me to the wall and like whip me and stuff like that, right? You know, and I was like 4 years old. Great image, huh? And, you know, and I wasn't able to stand up for myself. I was this tiny little kid. So, of course, that made me kind of shy, right? Then, you know, my dad was kind of, you know, he was like a, you know, like a strong type personality. And so in a lot of ways, that also, you know, caused me, you know, some people that will make them stronger. Personally, the way that I reacted at the time, I became kind of introverted, all right? So that shaped a lot of my personality at a young age. On the other hand, there's a lot of other things that could shape your personality at a young age. Like, think of it this way. What if you have a great life? Like, say you have really, really wealthy parents, all right? A lot of people are envious of people who have wealthy parents, right? Like, oh, he's so lucky he has rich parents. His whole life is taken care of. Nah, man. I have a lot of sympathy for kids that are, I don't want to say sympathy, I don't want to encourage a victim identity in anybody. Nobody's a victim. I don't even care if you are a victim, you're not a victim. But the point is that a rich kid may wind up spoiled, right? He might wind up a spoiled little brat. I remember the richest kid in my school used to be a massive drug addict. He used to steal 30, 40 grand from his parents at a time and go spend it on the other kids who were continually using him, right? They were just tooling him and using him for his money. And then as soon as he'd run out, he had like no friends left and he would just like walk around and cry, all right? And then he'd go steal more money. And yeah, it was this complete mess, all right? And then he'd get in trouble, and then he'd get kicked out of his house. It was this complete nonsense. And you say, oh, well, look at this kid. He's so lucky he had it all, he blew it. Well, the kid's like, what, 16? Come on. You don't know shit when you're 16. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's another thing, too, that we'll talk about is like the fact that growing up, you really don't know shit. And a lot of these like stupid things that you did that you may take on as a part of your identity now, you're just a fucking kid, man, all right? It's just a part of a universal story that everybody goes through. But look, so much of your identity is arbitrary. You may think that you came up with your personality, right? That's me. This is me. This is my personality. I came up with it. That's me. I can't do something that's not me. But guess what? Most of your personality at this point, you probably didn't come up with, all right? Unless you're a bit older and you've been working on yourself. Chances are you did not come up with most of who you are. Quick question?
Sure. So you think the introvert or extrovert is it's not part of your own identity? Is it not something you are born with?
Well, different like geneticists or biologists have different opinions. They call that the nature-nurture debate. Okay. And that does not appear to be something that's going to be proved concretely, because even when you can find cases where there is evidence that your DNA affects your personality, there's always countless examples of people that rose above that and made their own choice and stuff like that, or whose environment shaped them differently. So, it depends, right? I mean, I think probably I was born to be an introvert. I don't know if you guys know this, but my biggest fears, my first biggest fear in life has always been public speaking. True. All right. When I was made to do public speaking when I was a kid, I escaped it every chance possible. Always tried to get away from it. My other biggest fear was writing. Okay? I didn't know how to write. And the teacher actually put me in like special courses and stuff to force me to write because I was terrible at it. But yet through like discipline, people might say, oh, that guy's like a natural public speaker, like a natural writer or something like that, even though I put time in. So I don't like any constraints, fuck it. Like as far as I'm concerned, I go with the old US motto, all men are created equal, as far as I'm concerned, all right? True or not, I don't give a shit. That's where I'm coming from. So look, basically, but that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I guess you could say this. Let's say that you're a kid, right? And you try to be creative. And it happens to work out, right? And then everyone's like, oh, good job, man, good job. And then you get validation for that. You get props for that. Well, now all of a sudden, you're like, oh, I must be a creative person. And then you start going down those avenues, right? Let's say that you try to step up, okay? Let's say that as a kid, you try to step up and be confident. And it works out, right? Maybe there's just no other confident kids around. You know what I'm saying? Maybe maybe the kids around are just more passive than you are, even though you're just a naturally passive kid. And then all of a sudden, you start to develop those personality traits. Or let's say that you try to step up and you live in an area full of bullies, right? And even though you were confident, and if you were put in some other neighborhood, you would have grown up all emotionally healthy and happy and all that kind of stuff. But now you grow up kind of getting picked on, you try to be confident, you get kicked down, and you develop these negative associations at an early age. And then your personality goes in that direction. Let's say you grew up in the inner city or in the ghetto, right? You guys ever notice how when you, like, say that you travel in, like, inner city Chicago, for example, and you'll see, like, a lot of the guys there that I personally saw, I mean, I'm just one guy, but what I thought was, like, the guys seemed very alpha. Like, they seemed very, like they knew how to handle themselves, kind of. You know, maybe some of it was bravado and whatever, you know, for younger guys who isn't like that when they're younger. But the point is like, you know, you can see that they handled it. Well, you want to know what my theory is why they're able to handle it? Because they have no choice. They've got no choice, right? When you think about things like depression, self-pity, victim mindset, those are called luxuries, okay? That's called a modern day luxury, okay? Existential angst, that's a beautiful luxury of the modern day, man. All right? You know? The existential debate, right? Like when you've got everything in your life handled, you've got all your food handled, you've got a full belly, that's when you can go, man, what's the meaning of life? It's all meaningless, man. Oh, man, there's just no meaning to this, right? Well, if you're hungry, suddenly that meaning can kick in pretty quickly. All right, so, okay, if your safety's in a dangerous situation. So look, the point is this. So much of your personality is arbitrary and comes from what is called social feedback. All right? It's the social feedback that you get while interacting with other people. So you might be thinking, this is me. I can't change. I can't change my identity. I can't become the person that I want to be. I can't become someone else. Well, guess what? The core of what makes you who you are has never changed. All right? That core essence of who you are, that has never changed, guys. That's always there. But the personality traits that you have, many of those have developed what I call in reaction. All right? So I want you guys to consider that. Think about what that means, all right? You thinking about it? Think about this. Yeah, quick question?
Yeah, so when we say the core never changes of who you really are, that's why you can be so flexible and you can become like a very different person, like you not being a public speaker.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly it. You can be who you want to be. In fact, that's the core message of this program, right? Yeah. That you can be who you want to be. And let me tell you something. I get a lot of different feedback from people. Some positive, some negative. And that's fine. I'm cool with all of that. But the one compliment that I get that does mean a lot to me, like most compliments, I don't take it too seriously because it's like, that stuff comes and goes, right? I've had times when people love my stuff. I've had times when people hated my stuff. Stuff like popularity, who really cares? But the one compliment that I've always taken to heart is when people say, wow, man, you've changed so much since last year, right? That's the one compliment that I really, really like. That's the one that I'm like, wow, thanks. And every time, basically, I tend to travel I do a lot LA, New York, London, Sydney. I kind of do that little circuit, sort of back and forth. And I'll see some of the same people every year, right? And every year, the same people come up to me, and they're kind of like, whoa, you seem different, man. And that's the one compliment that means so much to me because, damn, I really work at this stuff. It's really my passion. So obviously, if people are like, oh, he doesn't seem to have evolved, he doesn't seem to have grown, that would suck, right? Growth is something I really enjoy. I love it, okay? And I love seeing people be who they want to be. In fact, every time that I teach a boot camp, I say the same thing to every single person that teaches a boot camp, which is I say, look, maybe I'll see you in a year from now, and I'm going to come from a fresh slate. Literally, I'm coming from a fresh slate because the person who you are today could be completely different in a year from now. Not totally different, of course, but so much will have changed. So much will be fresh and new. I've seen guys, who when I first met were self-hating, screwed up, weird, you couldn't even talk to them. You learn, when you're coming in my shoes, you learn not to judge people in any way, and not just pay lip service, oh, I don't judge. You really don't judge. But the thing is that you could have someone who is really hard to connect with, really hard to talk to, and you see him a year later, and he's chill, he's relaxed, he's centered, it's all this stuff. And isn't it funny how much all these psychiatric problems get fixed when guys just start getting laid, right? You know what I'm saying? Isn't that it's funny, huh? Some therapist works with a guy for a decade or something like that, right? What's this? I can't put the finger on this guy's problem. The guy's kind of weird and fucking angry and shit, right? Just start getting him laid and it's boom, right? Right? Problem solved, right? It's gee, you think maybe not getting laid for years at a time was maybe pissing him off? Maybe it wasn't a chemical imbalance. Maybe he's just fucking pissed, all right? Look, I'm by the way, massively oversimplifying here the amazing work that psychiatrists and people do. Massive oversimplification, all right? Yeah. Massive oversimplification, all right? Guilty, but just kind of joking around. But yet at the same time, man, I'll say I see it every single year. Guys that just are totally screwed up and they come back different. And so I never judge, and I never expect to be judged, right? If people want to judge me, they can go ahead, but I'm not going off of their judgment. I always want to be evolving. So essentially, look, I come from the position where there's nothing holding me back in terms of the directions that I want to go. If I want to go back on old views that I don't feel serve me any longer, I'll change them. Let me talk to you about who I used to be in Canada growing up. In Canada growing up, I was hardcore right-wing. Okay? Why was I extremely hardcore right-wing? I still am probably more to the right than to the left, But why was I extremely hardcore right-wing? Because my view was like, look, I've been living on my own since I'm 15. I never asked shit from anybody. I got by on my own. These motherfuckers here can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They shouldn't be asking for help from anybody. Okay? And that wasn't even a point of like, I'm not giving them my money. It wasn't even like that. It was more like, for their own good, they need to give up expecting things or thinking that they deserve something or that they're owed anything. All right? Well, you know what? I don't really think like that anymore. I've traveled more of the world. I've seen that a lot of people are not in a position to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You know, traveling, like take inner city Chicago just as one example that I mentioned. You travel inner city Chicago and you look at this, you're like, these people cannot even speak English properly. You know what I'm saying? Not all of them, but some of them, right? They're like they went to school. Like they went to school and they studied hard, but the way that they speak English, I remember when I first went to Wendy's and there was a girl there and I said, hey, could I get a burger? And she said, yo, I want that with cheese. Right? I said, excuse me? She said, yo, I want a hamburger with cheese. I have no idea what you're talking about, miss. I'm sorry. She's like, oh, I want hamburger with cheese. And I'm like, how can this girl get a job? Like, you know what I'm saying, right? How can she get a job? She can't go to an interview. The interviewer can't understand her because of the culture that she lives in, right? So she does need help, and otherwise she'll have no opportunity. I actually had a lot of opportunity. I thought I was so hard done by as a kid just because I didn't have like what the other kids had. I had so much opportunity given to me in comparison to what other people got. It's ridiculous. It's insane how much opportunity that I had. Same thing when I traveled the favelas, like in Rio de Janeiro, right? Like I went into the ghettos in Rio de Janeiro. There's kids walking around with machine guns and stuff like that. All right? And it's crazy. These kids have no way of getting out. So my views changed, all right? I wasn't a hardcore right-wing kid anymore, you know? When I was a kid, I was like, fuck everybody, all right? That was me growing up. First 22 years of my life, fuck everybody, all right? That was my mindset. The world is a negative place. People have to fuck with me, that kind of thing. Because that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. Extremely negative, depressing, no fear of death. Growing up, no fear of death whatsoever. Welcome death. Just like, fuck this shit. Okay? Whatever happens, fuck it. It happens. I don't fucking care. All right? That was the mindset that I was coming from. So people see me now, right? Like people see me, I go back home, and the people who I used to relate to, the people who were my friends, and who still are my friends and will be till the day I die, they're kind of surprised. They're like, who is this guy now? Right? Who is this person? You know? The way that I used to dress totally changed. Right? You know, the style clothes that I wear, the personality that I have, the outlooks that I have, the types of friends that I would have. I have a lot of, like, hippie-type friends now, you know, not, like, tons, but, you know, I've got, like, kind of, you know, more people who have a totally different mindset than me, that kind of stuff, all right? Why am I talking about this? I want to encourage you guys to do the same. Get the kind of friends that you wouldn't normally have that have different views, that challenge, get friends that actually challenge your reality and don't just feed into your existing reality. Right? Be the kind of person that you want to be. If you want to change your style, do it. If you want to change your personality, do it. Okay? If you see, like, look, say that you see the popular kids and they have like certain ways of joking or dressing and stuff, and you're like, you know, I think that's funny. I think that's cool. Oh, but that could never be me. I could never do it. Bullshit. All right? You could do whatever you want. The core of you is always the same, but you can always evolve in whatever direction you want. You know who I really admire for this, by the way? You guys know Madonna, the singer? Do you guys see how she consistently reinvents herself? She never gets held back to one kind of image or one kind of personality, right? One minute she can be like the controversial, like sex girl or whatever, like the big, like making sex like more out in the open. Next thing you know, she's like all into this new religion or what Kabbalah or something, right? And she can be like a raver chick, a cowboy. She can do whatever she wants, all right? And that's the kind of versatility that I think the best guys with women have, is they have versatility. They can be gothic. They can be, really well put together, nice suit. They can wear any kind of thing. There's a really great guy with women, like the real masters. Remember, this is an advanced seminar here. Is this stuff necessary to get a girlfriend? Of course not. I'm talking about advanced, what you would call pickup artistry. Okay, you want to talk about the top guys, the best guys. If you want to play at that level, like just for fun, as a hobby, not because you need to play at that level. Nobody needs to play at that level. You don't need to go this far. Just for fun, all right? As a hobbyist, as a person who finds it as a hobby. If you want to go to that level, you can, all right? You can be versatile. You can dress how you want. You can be who you want to be. You can do what you want to do. You can do what you want when you want it, anytime, and nobody can say shit, all right? Nobody. It's your choice. You can do what you want. Now look, the next direction I want to take this in is I want to talk really clearly about what you deserve and what feedback is, and what social feedback is. In your concept, of who you are, your identity, you have that concept of what you deserve. All right? You know what you deserve in terms of women. So look, at most seminars, for example, we like to do affirmations. All right? Like if I say, what kind of girl do you deserve? Who here feels that they deserve a 10? And everyone will go, I deserve a 10. And they put, a 10. That's a value judgment. Such a value judgment, right? But the point is, whatever their 10 is, they would say, oh, I deserve it. But the truth is, let's think about what you really think that you deserve. All right? I want you guys to go into your minds and think about what it is that you think that you deserve in terms of women. Go into your mind and think, where do I view myself on the totem pole? And really think about it, because look, let me tell you something. When you know that you're on a girl's level, like when you're like, okay, I'm on her level, right? I'm on this girl's level, it's natural. You're going to behave naturally. And you're easily going to be able to create attraction with that girl. That's a very easy thing. I want you guys to think about maybe the last time that you were talking to a girl who you knew that you were good enough for her. And think about the casual way that you acted and the casual way that you came at it. And maybe, how that caused her to respond to you in a more positive way. Well, you see, what happens with a lot of guys is they have great skills when it's a woman who's, moderately attractive to them, right? If the woman is moderately attractive, they can work it. They're fine. But as soon as you put up that girl who's their quote-unquote 10, and by the way, when I say they're 10, I don't mean like 8. Like, fuck what other people think is a 10. You know what I'm saying? You don't date a girl that your guy friends are going to think are attractive. I mean, maybe you can do it, I've done it, so I can't, tell you not to do it. But the point is, this is like a phase that you go through, and then you've got to evolve past that, okay? You want to date who is your 10. Now, when you think, okay, if I'm going to be talking to my 10, are you going to feel totally like you deserve it? Like, on all levels, you know that you deserve that girl, and you're totally at ease. There's no adrenaline going. There's no nervousness going. You're just excited. I mean, if you have adrenaline, it's like the adrenaline of just excitement to be meeting a girl that's really your 10, but it's not like an attachment, all right? When you know that you deserve that girl, attraction is automatic. It is so easy. It's so simple. It's so easy. You're not going to put your foot in your mouth. You're not going to be attached to the outcome. And there's all these little subtle things that you're going to be doing that are creating attraction in that girl when you know that you're on her level and that you're deserving of her. Does that mean that every girl on this planet that you know you're on her level is going to be attracted to you? Of course not. There's girls with wide ranges of personalities. There's no, ultimate way to get every single girl. But at the same time, generally speaking, when you're talking to a girl who's on your level, you're going to be able to create attraction so easily. It is so natural. On the other hand, what happens when you don't feel like you're on a girl's level? How does your behavior change in subtle ways? Any guesses?
Stutter.
Stutter. What else?
Trade status for approval.
Say that again?
You trade your status for approval.
Mm-hmm. Great. And what are some ways, like behaviors that come up that cause you to do that?
Any kind of supplication when your voice is rising in tone because you're seeking rapport.
Mm-hmm.
All these sub-communications are basically like, oh, I want you to like me because you are here and somewhere down here.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take it even more subtle. Like, if you want to think on an even more subtle level, guys, a lot of the time when we study success with women, we look at the most obvious factors. Like, we look at oh, he's supple, he chased for her approval, or he qualified himself. But I want to even go more subtle than that. All right, I want to take it from an advanced perspective here. I want to think really, really subtle. Okay, like the really, really, really subtle ways that you give away your power. Right? When you're in your head, look, when you're talking to a girl and you're in your head trying to think of the next thing to say to keep the conversation going further, on some subtle way she can feel that. As she's talking, you're trying, look, it's okay to do it to an extent, but there's kind of a threshold where it's cool, and then a threshold that's you're giving your power away. And you're trying to relate what you have to say to what she's saying in order to further the conversation or to impress her on some subtle level, the power is being given away. Now, let me stress here. We're talking about, again, like that kind of advanced pickup artistry type angle. Surely all of you have had girlfriends at some point who, you did that with. You tried to further the conversation. You wound up with the girl. So I'm not saying that it can't happen. But I'm talking if you want to be one of those guys who has like the type of rock star lifestyle that that we're talking about, like the real abundance, like just that guy that pulls, man. Like that guy that fucking pulls hard, can always do it. All right? That guy that is just coming from a lifestyle of total abundance. Typically, you've got to be very, very centered in your own sense of identity, your own sense of who you are, and you're not engaging in that subtle type of supplication, that extremely, extremely subtle type of supplication. Because, to me, there's two classifications, right? Like, you've got, like, the dancing monkey type guys, all right? Like, the guys who will go up to a girl, guys that go up to a girl, and it's like, oh, hey, blah, 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 oh, ha, ha, blah, blah, right? And they can keep the interaction going for a little bit and get the laughter, but there's no pull, all right? There's no close. And then you've got the guys who really pull, all right? The guys who are living in sexual abundance. And those are the guys who, from the core difference, know who they are, all right? So when I think about what is the core difference between a guy who's like more on the dancing monkey end of the continuum versus a guy who's more towards the sex-worthy guy, as Tim would call it, end of the continuum, your core sense of who you are is probably the defining factor of that. All right? The main defining factor between the dancing monkey and the guy that pulls, the sex-worthy guy, is going to be whether or not he knows who he is. So don't forget that. All right? You've got to begin to know more about who you are. We'll talk about that. So we'll get into that. So social feedback. This brings us back to some of the concepts that we talked about yesterday. What is social feedback? What is this secondary source from which you get your reality? So, we talked about this yesterday. And if you remember, we said first-hand experience versus second-hand experience. So your mind is always pinging, right? Always pinging to find out who you are. Find out what is permissible behavior in the environment. Find out what is normal. You do not figure out how the world works on your own, guys. You're not figuring out how the world works. What are some behaviors that you know not to do? We talked yesterday, jumping out of a window. Right? How do you know not to take dirt off the ground and start eating it? How do you know not to put your finger in an electrical socket? Just out of curiosity, who has ever put their finger in an electrical socket? Yeah, how do you like it?
Oh, it hurts. It gets a tingly feeling.
Tingly feeling? That nice tingly feeling? Or more of like a extremely alarming tingling feeling? Or no, you like it? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. Okay. I've done it once. The point is, look, you learn all these things. Why? Secondhand feedback. And look, what we're always doing on a subtle level, try to follow this, guys, on a very, very subtle level, is we're looking at how other people are reacting to our behavior. So, for example, say that you're a kid, say you're 2 years old, right? And you pick up a little thing of dirt, and you're about to eat it, and then you see the little subtle expressions on other people's faces that are kind of like that, like that. These little subtle expressions, you're picking this stuff up. At least if you have any social acuity, right? Some kids and people are born without the ability to read social cues, and that's kind of like an issue that they have to, work on, and that's like a challenge that they have. But assuming that you have the ability to read social cues on some level, you're able to see what is normal, permissible behavior and what is bad behavior. And so you see how when your identity was forming, if you try to step up and you're seeing other people say, that's not permissible behavior, that's not the right way to act, then your mind goes, no, don't do that. Don't act cool. Don't act popular. Don't be fun. Whatever it is. That is what social feedback is. Now look, one thing that you got to remember is a great deal of your reality is 1, unverified, and 2 is secondhand. All right? You have not learned everything about the world on your own. You don't have time. You don't have the time and energy to go find out everything that there is to know about the world on your own. This is why we rely on secondhand information. That's a principle that you have to understand. First-hand information, second-hand information. You don't have the time to find out every little stupid thing about this planet on your own. You have to learn how to trust secondary information. So how does that affect you? How does that affect your identity? Well, look, your mind has like a radar system, right? We talked about this yesterday. Your mind has this little radar system that looks at how certain people are of themselves. Basically, it's saying, is this person's sense of reality more accurate than mine? Think about this, guys. Whenever you look at somebody, say that you're driving, right? And you say, is it right or left? And the guy goes, it's right. And he seems totally sure of himself. Your brain goes, oh, this must be true. Let's go to the right, just because he seems sure of himself. Do any of you guys have any friends that always seem sure of themselves? Sometimes they're wrong, and it like freaks you out. Yeah, right? And it's like, oh, and then you got to and then eventually you've got to come to the conclusion, even when that guy seems sure of himself, you still got to think. You can't totally trust it, right? Because he's just a very certain guy. You can't always listen to it. Reticular activation system is more when you tune into what has value to you, and definitely someone who has a lot of certainty of themselves would probably seem to have value. Radar system would be more like, RAS is like this. There's the whole picture, and it tunes into what has value to you. This would be more like, you've got a guy, and he's talking, and if it seems certain, then you'll believe it. And if he seems uncertain, then you go, nope, I'm not listening to that. All right, that's the best way I can put it to you. So, Ben, thank you for following with me. So look, when somebody else believes, like say one of the more popular kids, have you guys ever had one of the more popular kids in school sort of like try to put you down, and he was so certain of it that it exerted a psychological pressure on you to think that you were that nerd that he was pushing you as? You guys get that? Who here has had an experience like that, where a kid did that? Okay, great. All right? Good stuff. We've all had that. I remember a kid said to me when I was in like the 2nd or 3rd grade, he said, I'm better than you at everything. And I said, that's not true. I have some stuff. He goes, no, you have nothing good about you. I'm better at everything. And I said, that's not true. And he said, okay, name something. And I was like, oh, English. He's like, no, I did this and this and this. I was like, oh, right? I'm like, math. He's like, no, I got this and this and this. I was like, oh. I was like, hockey. He's like, no, I got this and this. I'm like, oh. He's like, see? Nothing.